I'm Christina, 25 years old, and I mostly keep to myself. Even though I have a job or study, my family might think I don't because I don't talk about it much, especially my brother. How did I end up like this? Well, it all goes back to my time in middle school when I started feeling like I couldn't trust people. It's not just one thing that caused it, but mostly because I felt ignored. I guess people didn't find me interesting because I was always into machines. I've always enjoyed messing around with computers, and I was pretty good at it, which helped out at home. But then my school grades dropped because I spent more time with computers than with friends, and my parents got worried. When I finished elementary school, my parents started telling me off, saying, "Stop spending so much time with those machines." During middle school, as my parents kept scolding me, I started feeling like I shouldn't pursue my interests. So whenever I had free time from school, I'd hide in my room to avoid my parents, cutting off contact with the outside world. This made more people think I was strange or risky, and I started feeling isolated even at school. The only person who supported me was my brother Keith. He always knew how to cheer me up and keep me going. With his help, I finished school. But I didn't go to high school. Instead, I did computer jobs from home. When I was about 16, I got a part-time job, and with the money I earned, I bought old computers to take apart and rebuild from scratch, just the way I liked. My hobby became a business opportunity, and by the time I hit 20, I was making and selling computers. Soon, I started my own business, offering affordable computers, and became quite well known. By the time I turned 25, I'd made a decent amount of money. I even started contributing $2,500 to my parents' household each month and still had money left over. Even though I tried explaining my job to my parents, they didn't get it. After a few arguments, they decided that as long as I could support myself, they didn't mind what I did. This meant they stopped interfering and I could live as I pleased at home. But my brother still didn't think much of me. My brother used to be my ally, the one who understood me best when I was in school. He was really kind, but maybe he got tired of his sister, who was still at her parents' house tinkering with machines even after turning 20. Over time, he started treating me harshly whenever he saw me. Since I didn't keep quiet about it, we ended up having more conflicts, and now we're not on good terms. Things got even worse after my brother got married. His wife, who we'd known since high school, never really liked me. After hearing about me from my brother, she didn't want to be my sister-in-law and seemed to influence my brother against me. Because of this ongoing situation, I became known as the troublemaker at home. Even though I stayed in my room most of the time, I felt my heart breaking from all the hostility directed at me, which was different from my parents' concerned words. Suddenly, my parents' home, once a cozy sanctuary despite the criticisms, turned into a hostile environment. I no longer felt comfortable there, and it seemed like my parents were being swayed against me while my allies disappeared. Even though I had my own income and contributed to the household expenses, my brother and sister-in-law, who didn't understand my work, saw me as a burden. They started talking about kicking me out and taking over the house. Feeling disconnected from my brother and his plans, I figured leaving wouldn't make much of a difference. Once I found a new place, I wouldn't have to contribute to household expenses anymore, which meant I could save that money instead. It was kind of a silver lining. As I was thinking about moving out, my brother brought up the topic of inheritance out of the blue. He seemed to think that our parents' financial comfort, despite my lack of a traditional job, was due to their wealth. So when the idea of me leaving came up, he suggested, "Since we'll be taking care of Mom and Dad, we should inherit their assets. You should give up your share of the inheritance." But the truth was, the reason our parents could enjoy their lives without working was because I was covering their living expenses. I didn't think they could manage without that money, but my brother saw me as nothing but a burden in my room. Despite feeling like leaving was the best option, I decided to ask one more time out of kindness. "Are you really okay with me leaving?" I asked. My brother just laughed and said, "We'd be happy if you left already." It became clear once again how little he understood. I felt sorry for him and his wife, which made me even more determined to leave. A few days later, I was still in my room, and my brother and sister-in-law were relentless in their efforts to get me out. They kept knocking on my door, convinced Mom to stop cooking for me, and even told me to do my own laundry. But these were all things I'd have to do if I lived alone anyway. I wasn't going to just sit back and let them take my place away from me without a fight. Sure, I wasn't happy about it, but I wasn't about to accept it either. I was being unfairly pushed out, and I wasn't going to take it lying down. After all, I'm skilled with machines, something my brother seemed to forget. He didn't realize the power I had with a computer at my disposal. I wasn't the type to quietly obey orders and leave. My brother's marriage, with me as the reclusive sister, was the only chance for our parents to have a grandchild. They were so focused on that, they didn't see how wrong it was for me to leave. So I decided to set up a little surprise for them, a trap that would spring into action as soon as I left the house. After finding a new place to live and completing all the necessary procedures, I was ready to leave my family home. Just before I departed, I left a farewell message for my parents and brother. I've been supporting the family, and you've forgotten all the good I've done. I hope you realize who the real burden on our family wealth is. My parents seemed surprised for a moment, but they probably trusted that my brother would figure things out somehow. They all brushed off my words as bitterness. I knew they didn't take me seriously. But for now, I believed it was best to leave things this way. So I left the house. I took a significant amount of equipment from my family home and bought additional items, along with necessary furniture and appliances for my new place. I set up my new place just the way I wanted it, decorating it with my favorite style and creating a cozy atmosphere. It turned out to be a perfect environment for me to work in, and surprisingly, living alone wasn't as intimidating as I thought it would be. In fact, I wished I had made the move sooner. The people in the neighborhood were friendly and life was comfortable. Since leaving my family home and taking care of everything on my own, I've been enjoying myself, trying out new experiences. While I was reveling in my newfound independence, I wondered how things were going back at my family home, especially since they lost my financial support. Then, out of the blue, my mother called. "Hey, Christina, did you do something to our machines?" she asked. "What do you mean?" I replied. "There's something wrong with the computers and electronics," she said. "I have no idea about that," I said, puzzled. "I used to help out for free because we're family, but since you treated me poorly and kicked me out, even though you're my parents, you'll have to pay the regular price," I explained. "What? That's pretty greedy. We're your parents. Can't you give us a discount?" They responded. "Well, I prefer giving discounts to my friends. Unlike you, they treat me well," I countered. "Fine, you're so cheap," they grumbled. Internally, I sighed with relief that another trap hadn't been triggered and dealt with the situation calmly. But my mother didn't seem to appreciate my response. She abruptly hung up, behaving like a sulking child, and even sent a spiteful email implying that mean people lose friends. It made me question who was acting like the mature one. Frankly, it seemed self-centered, if not downright selfish. As for what I did to the family computer, I simply restored all the adjustments I had previously made for free back to their original settings. To someone unfamiliar, it might seem like the computer malfunctioned on its own. When I suggested they contact the company for repairs as an individual, they got upset. But I expected as much, so I let it go. 6 months after leaving home and settling into my new life, my father called me. "I hate to ask, but can you lend me some money?" he said. "What do you mean? Lend you money?" I responded. "Your brother and his wife have been spending recklessly. They think we're rich, and they keep complaining, asking for money to buy this or go there," he explained. "I have no idea about any of this. Why do you always come to me with everything? I've heard of daughters who live alone sending money home, but parents asking their children for money? Shouldn't it be the other way around, out of generosity?" I questioned. "It's not that simple," he replied. "Well, even $500 would help," he added. "I'm not giving you anything. I won't lend you money either. I have no intention of financially supporting you anymore," I firmly stated. "Of course, I'll work on your machines if you pay for my services," I replied calmly. "You've really become stingy," they retorted. "I guess Mom was right about you." They went on complaining about my unemployed years, but I didn't let it bother me. I just ended the call. My father didn't send any emails, but he started calling me multiple times a day, which I found annoying. What troublesome parents I have, I thought to myself. A few days later, my brother, sounding desperate, called me. When I asked why they kept contacting me, he asked, "Do you know why our family was wealthy?" It seemed like he suspected their financial situation had worsened since I moved out, but it was too late. My current home was my sanctuary. My work and life were all centered around this house, and I had no intention of leaving it again. Could it be that our family's wealth came from the $2,500 I was contributing each month? I pondered. I didn't have to give that much, but I felt grateful for my upbringing, so I willingly contributed more. But now, why would I continue supporting a home that kicked me out? It didn't make sense, right? So that's when Mom and Dad's finances took a hit. My brother realized. I'm sorry, but even if you asked me to come back, I have no intention of doing so, I replied firmly. I understand now that what happened was wrong. I'm sorry, but it's too late for apologies. I have no plans to have any involvement with you in the future. Please don't call me anymore. Hey, wait, my brother protested, but I ended the call. When I left home, I made a vow never to be drawn back into their drama. Forgiving them wasn't something I could do easily. I decided to cancel my cell phone contract to avoid the constant calls. 5 years have passed since then, and I've moved on. I got married and started a new chapter in my life. My partner is in the same line of work as me, so he understands my lifestyle and helps out with household chores. Although I thought about reaching out to my parents since they're technically family, I felt it was too late. I hadn't made any attempts to reconnect. However, my husband expressed an interest in meeting my parents and learning about their current situation. To gain insight, I hired a detective to investigate. What we discovered was shocking. My parents, desperate to maintain their lifestyle and keep my brother and his wife tied to the family home, had accrued a mountain of debt from various lenders. With no hope of repayment, the debt continued to grow with accumulating interest, leaving them in a dire situation. The debt from my parents alone exceeded $100,000, and their house had been used as collateral. Now, where our family home once stood, there's only an empty lot. Although I felt a twinge of sadness due to my sentimental attachment to our family home, I couldn't help but think that my parents were facing the consequences of their actions. I decided to look into my brother's current situation. It appeared that my brother had suggested a divorce due to his wife's extravagant spending habits, but she vehemently opposed the idea. They were now embroiled in a drawn-out divorce lawsuit, which was draining both their time and finances. His wife had hired a lawyer and was resisting the divorce, refusing to let go of my brother, leaving them at an impasse. Despite rumors, my brother and his wife hadn't yet had children. To confirm, I sent the detective to the hospital where they were being treated. It turned out my brother was indeed infertile, nearly incapable of producing sperm, making natural conception highly unlikely. My parents, who had pinned their hopes on having grandchildren from my brother and his wife, were disappointed and ended their cohabitation. The family home had to be sold to settle the debt, marking the sad state of my family. This distressing reality became apparent after a cursory investigation. It was evident that engaging with them in this condition wouldn't be beneficial for me or my husband. Now, I have a loving husband, 4 children, and a dog. We've purchased a spacious home and are living the life my family once dreamed of. If they were aware of our situation, they might try to exploit it, which I couldn't bear. As soon as I learned about this, I went to the local office and arranged for my personal information to be accessible only through formal disclosure requests. I made a conscious effort to keep my distance from them and asked my husband not to engage with them regarding our marriage. Although he seemed disappointed at first, after explaining the situation, he understood and hasn't brought it up since. I hope that once things settle down at my family home and a time for reconciliation arrives, I can rebuild a relationship with my parents and brother.
The day my family chose my cousin over my future started like any other Thursday. I was sitting at our worn kitchen table, acceptance letter in hand, heart racing with possibilities. Harvard. The word still tasted like magic on my tongue. "We need to talk, Jackie." Mum's voice carried that weight I'd learned to dread. Dad stood behind her, shoulders slumped, avoiding my eyes. "My name is Jacqueline, and this is the story of how my own family stole my dreams, and how I fought like hell to get them back. Aiden needs the money," Mum continued, her hands nervously twisting her wedding ring. "His business plan is solid. He'll double the investment within a year." I stared at them, uncomprehending. "What money?" "Your college fund," Dad mumbled, still not meeting my gaze. "All the overtime I worked, the extra shifts your mum took at the hospital. Aiden has a real opportunity here." The room started spinning. 4 years of watching my parents sacrifice everything, of working part-time jobs myself, of maintaining perfect grades, all of it crumbling before my eyes. "You're joking," I whispered. "Please tell me you're joking." "Jackie, be reasonable," Mom pleaded. "Aiden has an MBA. He knows what he's doing. This investment will benefit the whole family." I slammed my hands on the table, making them both jump. "I worked my ass off for this. I got into Harvard. Do you know how many people would kill for this opportunity?" "Language," Mom scolded reflexively. "Language? That's what you're worried about." I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. What about my future? The doorbell rang, and my stomach dropped. I knew who it was before Mom hurried to answer it. "There's my favourite cousin," Aiden's smooth voice carried from the entryway. He appeared in the kitchen doorway, all designer clothes and practiced charm. "Jackie, you're looking stressed. Harvard decisions got you down." I wanted to punch the smirk off his face. "They accepted me." "Did they? Congratulations." He moved to hug me, but I stepped back. "Though honestly, with the current market, you might be better off investing in something more substantial." "Like your mystery business plan?" I spat. "It's not a mystery." He pulled out a sleek tablet, sliding it across the table. "I've got everything mapped out. Tech startup, guaranteed government contracts, exponential growth potential. Show me the contracts. They're still in negotiation, but my contacts..." "Your contacts?" I turned to my parents. "Are you hearing this? He has nothing." "Jacqueline," Dad finally spoke up. "Aiden has experience. He's family." "And I'm not?" My voice cracked. "Everything you saved, my future, you're just giving it away?" "Investing it," Aiden corrected smoothly. "I'll have returns within 12 months. You can start Harvard next year, debt-free." I grabbed my acceptance letter and backed away from them all. "You know what? Keep the money, but don't expect me to forgive any of you when this falls apart." "Jackie," Mom reached for me. "My name is Jacqueline." I turned and ran upstairs, slamming my bedroom door. Through my tears, I pulled out my phone and started searching for jobs. Restaurant server, retail, tutoring, anything and everything. My hands shook as I filled out application after application. A soft knock came at my door. "Honey," Dad's voice, "can we talk?" "About how you're throwing away everything we worked for." "Sure, let's talk." He opened the door slowly, looking older than I'd ever seen him. "I know you're angry." Angry doesn't begin to cover it. But family has to stick together. Aiden needs this chance. I looked at him, really looked at him. "And what about my chance, Dad? What about everything you and Mom sacrificed for years? Was that all for Aiden too?" He sat heavily on my bed. "We can take out loans. There are other ways." "You're right," I cut him off, turning back to my phone. "There are other ways. And I'm going to find them. Without any of you. Jackie, please leave." After he left, I stared at my reflection in the window. Tears streaked my face, but beneath them something harder was forming, something determined. My phone buzzed with a text from my best friend, Mia. "Parents told me what happened, coming over with ice cream and job listings. We'll figure this out." I took a deep breath, straightened my shoulders, and replied, "Bring your laptop too. We're not just figuring this out. We're going to make Aiden wish he'd never heard of Harvard." The acceptance letter still lay on my desk, Harvard's crimson logo gleaming like a promise, or maybe a warning. Either way, I wasn't giving up, not on my dreams and definitely not on justice. They wanted to talk about family. Fine, I'd show them exactly what family loyalty got you in return. 3 months into my new life, and I was running on coffee and spite. The morning shift at the diner blurred into afternoon tutoring sessions, followed by evening work at the library. Sleep had become a luxury I couldn't afford. "Order up!" Tommy, our cook, called out. I balanced 4 plates along my arms, muscle memory taking over as I delivered breakfast to my regulars. "You look dead on your feet, honey," Mrs. Peterson said, accepting her usual omelette. "Still working those 3 jobs? 4, actually. Picked up weekend bookkeeping for the auto shop down the street. 4 jobs and online classes. You'll burn out." I managed a tired smile. Can't burn out if you never slow down. My phone buzzed, Mum's third attempt to call this week. I ignored it, just like the others. The diner's bell chimed as Mia walked in, right on schedule for our daily strategy session. Guess who just got intel from their cousin who works at First National, Mia announced, sliding into her usual booth. Let me finish this round first. I delivered the remaining plates and grabbed my break card. 15 minutes, Tommy. Joining Mia, I pulled out my worn notebook. 3 months of research, leads and dead ends. What have you got? Aiden's been moving money between accounts, multiple transfers, all just under $10,000. Structuring, I said, writing it down. That's illegal. Exactly. And get this, none of it's going to any tech startup. Unless Lucky Stars Casino is a tech company now. My hand tightened around my pen. He's gambling with my college fund. Among other things, designer clothes, luxury car payments, weekend trips to Vegas. The bell chimed again. I looked up to see my mum walking in, and my stomach dropped. Jackie, please don't run, she said, approaching our booth. I just want to talk. I'm working. You're on break, Tommy called out helpfully. Traitor. Mum slid in next to Mia, who gave me a supportive look but didn't move. You've missed 3 Sunday dinners, Mum said. Your father's worried sick. Is he? Or is he worried Aiden won't pay back the money? Her face fell. About that, he's been missing meetings, not answering calls. Shocking, I deadpanned. The con man isn't following through. Don't call him that. He's family. Family doesn't steal from family, Mom. I pulled out my phone, showing her my bank app. See this? 23,847. That's what I've saved in 3 months. Working 4 jobs, taking online classes, barely sleeping. Because my family decided some smooth-talking cousin was more important than their daughter's future. You thought wrong. I stood up. Now, if you'll excuse me, my break's over. Actually, Mia interjected, we have that appointment to get to. Mum looked between us suspiciously. What appointment? Doctor's appointment, I lied smoothly. Can't miss it. After a quick word with Tommy, we escaped to Mia's car. She drove us to our real destination, the office of Van Brown, family lawyer. You're sure about this? Mia asked as we parked. He's gambling away my future. I'm done playing nice. Van's office smelled like leather and authority. He listened without interrupting as I laid out everything we'd discovered. Structuring, gambling, fraud, he said finally. You've done your homework. I want it all back, with interest. It won't be easy. Family cases rarely are. I'm not leaving Harvard to chance, I said firmly. Whatever it takes. Van leaned forward. There's an investigator I know, Ivy. She specializes in financial fraud. But once we start this, there's no going back. Your family relationships, we're destroyed the moment they chose him over me. My phone rang. Dad this time. Before I could silence it, Van held up his hand. Answer it. On speaker. Hesitating, I accepted the call. Jackie? Dad's voice was strained. Have you heard from Aiden? No. Why? He was supposed to make the first payment last week. We can't reach him. I met Van's eyes. He nodded encouragingly. Really? The guy who convinced you to give him my entire college fund isn't answering calls? I'm shocked. Jackie, please, we made a mistake. Yes, you did. And now you're all going to learn exactly how big that mistake was. I hung up, hands shaking but voice steady as I turned to Van. Call your investigator. I want everything. Bank records, casino trips, every lie he's told. And when we have it all, we'll bury him, Mia finished. Van started writing in his legal pad. I'll contact Ivy today, but remember, revenge might feel good, but justice feels better. Why not both? I smiled, thinking of Aiden's smug face. I've learned from the best about playing the long game. The weight of my exhaustion lifted slightly, replaced by something more energizing. Purpose. Aiden thought he'd won, but he was about to learn what happened when you underestimated the wrong cousin. Sunday dinner was Mom's latest attempt at family reconciliation. The tension around our dining room table could have powered a small city. "The pot roast is delicious, Riley," Aidan said, cutting into his meat. His designer watch caught the light, probably bought with my money. "Jackie helped make it," Mom beamed, trying too hard. "Remember how you two used to cook together as kids?" "Remember how he used to steal my allowance?" I muttered, stabbing a potato. Dad cleared his throat. "Aidan, about the investment." "Slight delay with the contracts," Aidan smoothly interrupted. "Government bureaucracy, you know how it is. But we're on track for next quarter." "Next quarter?" I set down my fork. Funny, that's not what Lucky Star's casino says. The clatter of silverware stopping was deafening. Aidan's smile flickered for just a second. "I don't know what you're talking about." "No? Should we call the casino? I'm sure they remember their high roller from last month." "Jackie," Mom warned. "What's she talking about?" Dad asked, looking between us. Aidan laughed, but I caught the nervous edge. "Just business meetings, Uncle Wade. You know how it is? Sometimes you have to entertain clients." "With my daughter's college fund?" "Dad, don't act concerned now," I said. "You handed him everything without even checking his story." "I trusted family," Dad shot back. "And how's that working out?" Aidan stood abruptly. "I should go. Clearly, Jackie's determined to cause problems." "Sit down," Dad commanded, his voice harder than I'd ever heard it. "Explain about these casino visits." "This is ridiculous. I don't have to defend my business practices to a teenager." "I'm not a teenager," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'm your worst nightmare. Want to see your bank statements, the ones showing transfers just under 10 grand. That's called structuring, cousin. It's illegal." The colour drained from his face. "You've been investigating me." "Someone had to." Mom started crying. Please, let's not fight. We're family." "Family?" I laughed. "Let me tell you about family. While he's been gambling away my future, I've been working 4 jobs. My hands are cracked from washing dishes. I haven't had more than 5 hours of sleep in months. Meanwhile, he's buying Rolex watches and taking weekend trips to Vegas." "Those trips were for business," Aidan protested. "Really? Should we call Candy from the Bellagio? She seemed very friendly in those photos." Aidan's face went from white to red. "You're bluffing. Try me." He grabbed his jacket. "I don't have to listen to this. Uncle Wade, Aunt Riley, I'll call you tomorrow." "Don't bother," Dad said quietly. "Just tell us where the money is. The investment is solid." "Stop lying." I slammed my hands on the table. "It's over, Aidan. We know everything." He backed toward the door. "You don't know anything, and you can't prove anything." After he fled, silence descended. Mum's quiet sobs were the only sound. "How long have you known?" Dad finally asked. "Long enough to build a case." I stood up, gathering my things. "Van's handling the legal side. Ivy's tracking the money." "Van? Our family lawyer?" Mom looked betrayed. "Someone had to be on my side." Dad buried his face in his hands. "We should have listened to you." "Yes, you should have." I headed for the door, then paused. Check Dad's office filing cabinet. Bottom drawer behind the tax returns. "There's something you need to see." "What are you talking about?" Dad looked confused. "The loan documents Aidan had you sign. Look at your signatures carefully, both of you." Understanding dawned on their faces. Mom rushed to Dad's office, returning moments later with trembling hands holding papers. "Wade, these aren't our signatures." "No," I confirmed. "They're forgeries. Good ones, but not good enough. Ivy found the real documents in Aidan's apartment. He never had government contracts, never had a business plan, just a gambling addiction and a family stupid enough to trust him." "We weren't stupid," Mom protested weakly. "We were trying to help family. And now you can help by pressing charges." I opened the front door. "Van's expecting your call tomorrow morning. Don't disappoint me again." "Jackie, wait," Dad called out. "Where are you going?" "To work. Some of us actually earn our money." As I walked to my car, my phone buzzed with a text from Mia. Ivy found something big. Meeting tomorrow at Van's office. I smiled, thinking of Aidan's panicked face. He thought he was so clever, playing the charming cousin routine. But he never saw me coming. The quiet one, the reliable one, the one who learned to wait and watch and gather evidence. Tomorrow would change everything. And this time, family loyalty wouldn't save him. "He's done this before," Ivy announced, spreading documents across Van's conference table. Her sharp eyes gleamed behind designer glasses. 3 times, to be exact. "Other families?" Mia asked, leaning forward. "Other cousins, different states, different names, but same pattern." Ivy tapped a photo of Aidan in a suit, looking younger. He finds relatives with college funds or retirement savings, convinces them to invest in his sure thing, then disappears when the money's gone. I felt sick. Why wasn't he caught? Family shame. Nobody wanted to admit they'd been conned by their own blood. Ivy smiled grimly. "Until now." Van adjusted his reading glasses. "We've got enough for criminal charges. The forgeries alone." The office door burst open. Aidan stormed in, face red with rage. "You little snake!" he snarled at me. "You think you can ruin me?" Mia stepped between us. "Security's on their way." "I'm family. I have every right to be here." He turned to Van. "Whatever she's told you, it's lies." "Like your business plan?" I stood, matching his glare. "Or your government contracts. You ungrateful brat. I gave you an opportunity. To what? Fund your gambling addiction?" His hand shot out, grabbing my arm. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." "Let go of her!" Ivy's voice cut like steel. "Or the assault charges will be extra." Security arrived, 2 burly men in uniforms. Aidan released me, straightening his jacket. "This isn't over," he threatened. "Actually," Van said, "it is. Your other victims are flying in tomorrow. All 3 of them." The colour drained from Aidan's face. "What?" "Jessica from Boston," Ivy read from her file. "Michael from Chicago. Sarah from Seattle. Ring any bells?" "You can't prove anything." "The money transfers say otherwise." I rubbed my arm where he'd grabbed me. "Did you really think I wouldn't fight back?" Security escorted him out, his threats echoing down the hallway. "You okay?" Mia asked, examining my arm. "I'm fine, but we need to move faster." I turned to Ivy. "How soon can we file charges?" "Already done. Police are picking him up tonight." My phone buzzed. Mom calling. I answered on speaker. "Jackie, Aidan just called screaming about betrayal. What's happening?" "What's happening is justice," I replied. "Check your email. Ivy sent everything. The forgeries, the gambling records, the other victims." Silence, then Dad's voice. "Other victims?" "We're not the first family he's conned, just the first to fight back." "Oh, God," Mum whispered. "What have we done?" "You can make it right," Van spoke up. "Press charges, testify, help us stop him from doing this again." "Of course we will," Dad said firmly. "Whatever you need." After the call ended, Ivy gathered her files. "He'll try to run. They always do." "Let him," I said. "The police have his passport flagged." "Smart girl." She handed me a business card. "You'd make a good investigator yourself." I pocketed the card, thinking of the future I was fighting to reclaim. "First, I need to get through Harvard." "About that," Van interrupted. "Your parents called this morning. They're taking out a second mortgage on the house." "What? No, I don't want them to." "They insist. And with the civil suit we're filing against Aidan, you should get most of your money back. Eventually." Mia squeezed my hand. "See? Everything's working out." My phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number. "You'll regret this. Family should protect family." "He's threatening you," Mia peered at the message. "We should tell the police." "Add it to the file," Ivy said, photographing my phone. "Every threat helps our case." I stared at the message, remembering Aidan's grip on my arm, the rage in his eyes. He'd always seemed so smooth, so controlled. Now the mask had cracked, revealing something darker underneath. "Be careful," Van warned. "Men like him are most dangerous when cornered." "I'm not afraid of him." "You should be," Ivy said quietly. "But that's why we're here. You're not fighting alone anymore." Walking to my car later, I spotted a familiar luxury sedan parked across the street. Aidan sat behind the wheel watching. I met his gaze steadily, refusing to flinch. Mia appeared beside me. "Want me to stay over tonight?" "No, I'll be fine." I unlocked my car, then paused. "Actually, yes, we can go over the testimony for tomorrow." As we drove away, I watched Aidan's car shrink in my rearview mirror. He thought he could intimidate me into silence, but he'd forgotten something crucial. I had nothing left to lose. He'd taken my trust, my money, my family's faith. But he couldn't take my determination. And tomorrow he'd learn exactly how expensive that mistake would be. The courthouse corridor buzzed with tension. Jessica from Boston sat beside me, her hands twisting a tissue. Michael from Chicago paced by the window. Sarah from Seattle hadn't stopped crying since she arrived. "All this time," Jessica whispered, "I thought I was the only one stupid enough to fall for it." "We're not stupid," I said firmly. "We're family who trusted family. He's the only one who should be ashamed." The doors burst open. Aidan walked in with his lawyer still wearing that expensive watch. Our eyes met, and he had the audacity to wink. "Don't let him get to you," Mia murmured beside me. Ivy rushed over, her heels clicking on the marble floor. "There's a problem. The casino records, they're gone." "What?" My stomach dropped. "How?" "Someone accessed the system last night, deleted everything." "He can't do that," Michael interrupted. "Can he?" "He has connections," Sarah sniffled. "That's how he always gets away with it." Van emerged from the courtroom, his face grim. "They're ready for us." Inside, my parents sat in the front row. Mom reached for my hand as I passed, but I kept walking. The betrayal was still too fresh. Aidan's lawyer spoke first. "Your Honour, this is a simple family misunderstanding. My client had verbal agreements." "Objection," Van stood. "We have written documents forged by the defendant." "Allegedly forged," Aidan's lawyer countered. "And where are these documents?" Van produced the files. "Right here, along with expert testimony confirming the forgery." "And the alleged gambling?" The lawyer smiled. "Where's the proof of that?" "The casino records," Ivy started. "What casino records? We see no evidence of any gambling." I felt the case slipping away. Months of work disappearing because Aidan had connections in the right places. "Permission to approach?" Van asked the judge. While they conferred, I noticed Aidan texting under the table, smirking. Something clicked in my mind. "Mia," I whispered urgently. "The photos from your cousin at the bank." Her eyes widened. She dug through her bag, pulling out her phone. "Your Honour," I stood suddenly, "I have evidence." "Sit down," Aidan's lawyer snapped. "Let her speak," the judge said. My hands shook as I walked forward. "These are photos of bank statements taken 3 months ago. They show structured deposits to avoid detection. And this," I swiped to another photo, "is Aidan at Lucky Stars Casino, dated 2 weeks ago." "Objection! Those could be doctored." "The metadata's intact," Ivy interrupted, examining the photos. "These are original, unaltered images." Aidan's smirk vanished. He whispered frantically to his lawyer. "Furthermore," I continued, "I'd like to call Jessica, Michael, and Sarah to testify about their experiences." One by one, they told their stories. The same pattern, the same lies, the same betrayal. Aidan's face grew darker with each testimony. "Your Honour," his lawyer tried again, "these allegations are supported by evidence," the judge cut in. "And given the pattern of behaviour," Aidan stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous. They're just jealous of my success." "What success?" I challenged. "The fake business, the gambling debts, the stolen futures?" "You ungrateful little—" He lunged forward, but bailiffs grabbed him. "Order!" The judge banged her gavel. "Mr. McCormick, control yourself or I'll have you removed." My parents watched in horror as their beloved nephew was restrained. His mask finally shattered completely. "I did everything for this family," he shouted. "I was going to make us rich." "You were going to make yourself rich," I corrected. "We were just convenient piggy banks." The judge had heard enough. "Given the evidence and the defendant's behaviour, I'm ordering a full investigation. Mr. McCormick will surrender his passport and remain in custody pending criminal charges." As the bailiffs led him away, Aidan locked eyes with me one last time. "You'll regret this," he spat. "Families should stick together." "We are sticking together," Jessica said, standing beside me. "All of us, against you." Outside the courtroom, my parents approached hesitantly. "Jackie," Mom started, "we're so sorry. We should have believed you." "Yes, you should have." I turned to Van. "What happens now?" "Criminal trial comes next. With 4 victims testifying and this evidence, he's looking at serious time." Ivy touched my arm. "That offer to train as an investigator, it still stands. You've got good instincts." I looked at my parents, at the other victims now hugging and crying together, at Mia who'd stood by me through everything. "First," I said, "I'm going to Harvard. Then we'll talk about catching more guys like Aidan." "Speaking of Harvard," Dad pulled out an envelope. "The new loan papers. Everything's approved." I took the envelope but didn't open it. Some trust would take longer to rebuild than others. "Come on." Mia linked her arm through mine. "Let's get coffee. You look like you need it." Walking away, I heard Mom call out, "Sunday dinner?" I paused, then nodded slightly. "Maybe. We'll see." It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. "He made bail." Ivy's voice crackled through my phone as I stacked dishes at the diner. "Some anonymous benefactor posted it this morning." My hands froze mid-wipe. "How? I thought the judge—" "Money talks, and Aidan's got friends we don't know about." The bell above the door chimed. I looked up to see Mia rushing in, face flushed. "Have you heard?" "Just now." I tossed my apron on the counter. "Tommy, I need to—" "Go!" He waved me off. "But be careful, kid." Outside, Mia grabbed my arm. "There's more. Your mom called me. Someone broke into your parents' house last night." "What? Are they okay?" "They're fine. They were at work. But their home office was ransacked. Your dad's files are gone." My blood ran cold. The original loan documents, the ones proving forgery, they'd been in those files. "Van's copies, already secured in his safe," Mia assured me. "But, Jackie, there was a note." She handed me a crumpled paper. The handwriting was familiar. "Family secrets should stay in the family." My phone buzzed again. "Van this time. Get to my office, now." 20 minutes later, we sat in Van's conference room. Ivy paced while Van spread crime scene photos across the table. "This wasn't just about the documents," Ivy said. "It's intimidation. He's sending a message." "The graduation ceremony is tomorrow," Mia added. "He knows you're planning to expose everything in your speech." Van leaned forward. "Maybe we should reconsider." "No." I stood up. "I'm not letting him win. Not again." "Jackie, he's desperate. Desperate people are dangerous, I know." I picked up the threatening note. "But so am I." My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "Check your email." Heart pounding, I opened my inbox. The video started playing automatically. Footage of me and Mia breaking into Aidan's apartment 3 months ago, gathering evidence. "That's illegal entry," Van muttered. Another text. "Drop the charges or this goes to the police. Family protecting family, remember?" "He's bluffing," Mia said. "He can't go to the police without admitting why we were there." "But he can use it to discredit you," Ivy pointed out. "Make you look like the criminal." The diner's bell chimed in my memory, that moment when everything changed. I pulled out my phone. "What are you doing?" Mia asked. "Fighting fire with fire." I dialed Aidan's number. He answered on the first ring. Finally ready to be reasonable. Meet me, tonight. Just us. Why should I? Because I have something you want, something worth more than those surveillance videos. A pause. Where? The diner, midnight, come alone. After hanging up, 3 voices started protesting at once. Are you insane? He could be dangerous. This is a terrible idea. Trust me, I said. And Ivy, bring your camera. Midnight turned the diner into a film noir set. I sat in my usual booth, coffee growing cold, watching the door. Aidan walked in exactly on time, looking expensive even in casual clothes. This better be good. Sit down, cousin. He slid into the booth. Where is it? First, let's talk about family. I pushed my coffee aside. You like that word. Use it like a weapon. Skip the lecture. What do you have? Proof that you're working with someone inside the casino? Someone who deleted those records for you? His smile faltered. You're bluffing. Am I? Check your email. He pulled out his phone. His face went white as he opened the attachment. That's you, I continued, meeting with the casino's IT manager last week, right before the records vanished. Interesting timing. Where did you... I learned from the best. Family secrets, right? What do you want? Drop the threats. Let justice happen. Or these photos go to the FBI's gambling commission. He leaned forward, voice low. You think you're so clever, but you have no idea what you're dealing with. Actually, I do. I stood up. By the way, smile for Ivy. Camera flashes burst from the kitchen window. Aidan jumped up, but Mia was already blocking the door. Van emerged from the back, recording everything. Threatening a witness, he said calmly. That's another charge to add to the list. Aidan's face contorted. You set me up. Family protecting family, I echoed his words. Except this time, I'm protecting everyone from you. As police sirens wailed in the distance, I gathered my things. See you at graduation, cousin. I've got quite a speech planned. His handcuffs clinked as they led him out, but his threat followed me into the night. This isn't over. No, I whispered, watching the patrol car disappear. But it will be soon. The graduation auditorium hummed with anticipation. I adjusted my cap, the valedictorian's medal heavy around my neck. Through the stage curtain I could see my parents in the front row, Jessica, Michael and Sarah beside them. Ivy and Van sat further back, scanning the crowd. He won't show, Mia whispered, fixing my gown. He can't. It's a violation of his bail conditions. He'll show. I checked my phone. No messages since last night's threat. Hope you're ready for your big moment. The principal stepped up to the microphone. Welcome, families and graduates. My speech cards felt damp in my sweating hands. This wasn't just a graduation speech, it was a reckoning. Movement at the back door caught my eye. Aidan slipped in, wearing sunglasses indoors like the cliché he was. Our eyes met across the room, and he smiled. And now, the principal continued, our valedictorian, who achieved exceptional academic excellence while working multiple jobs. I walked to the podium, heart thundering. The bright lights made it hard to see the audience, but I could feel Aidan's presence like a shadow. When I was young, I began, my parents taught me that family means everything, that we sacrifice for each other, support each other, trust each other. My mom wiped her eyes. Dad squeezed her hand. But sometimes, I continued, the hardest lessons come from family itself. Sometimes trust becomes a weapon, and sacrifice becomes surrender. Movement in my peripheral vision, Aidan standing, moving toward the side aisle. 3 months ago, I lost my college fund to someone I trusted, someone who used family bonds to steal not just from me, but from others across the country. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Aidan reached inside his jacket. But today isn't about loss. I gripped the podium harder. It's about justice. Stop talking! Aidan's voice boomed across the auditorium. He pulled out not a weapon, but a stack of papers. I have proof she broke into my home. She's the criminal. Security moved toward him, but he dodged them, waving the papers. She's lying. It's all lies. Is it? I projected my voice over the chaos. Tell them about Jessica from Boston, Aidan. Tell them about Michael and Sarah. They trusted me with investments. They trusted family, I corrected. Just like my parents did. Just like I did. He rushed toward the stage. Van stood up, blocking his path. That's far enough. You don't understand, Aidan pleaded to the crowd. I was going to pay it all back. The casino deals, they were guaranteed. The only thing guaranteed, Ivy's voice cut through as she stood, badge glinting, was that you'd keep stealing until someone stopped you. Police officers emerged from the side doors. Aidan saw them and bolted. Always running, I said into the microphone. But you can't outrun the truth. They caught him at the exit. As they led him away, he shouted, You're not family anymore. You're nothing. No, I called after him. I'm valedictorian, and you're under arrest. The auditorium erupted in applause. My classmates stood, then their parents, then everyone. Through tears, I saw Jessica, Michael, and Sarah hugging each other. My parents stared at me with a mixture of pride and regret. As I was saying, I continued once the noise died down, today isn't about loss. It's about victory, not just mine, but everyone who's ever been betrayed by someone they trusted. I pulled out my Harvard acceptance letter. This fall I'm going to Harvard, not because of family money, but because I worked for it, because when everything was taken from me, I didn't give up. Mia beamed from the side stage. Van nodded approvingly. To my fellow graduates, remember this: trust is precious, but justice is priceless. And sometimes the hardest battles aren't against enemies, but against those we love. After the ceremony, my parents approached cautiously. That was brave, Mom said softly. That was necessary, I replied. Dad held out an envelope. Your graduation present. It's not much, but inside was a cheque. Their entire savings. I can't take this. Yes, you can. Dad's voice cracked. We failed you once. Never again. Ivy appeared beside us. Actually, with Aidan's assets frozen and the civil suit proceeding, she might not need it. Keep it, I handed the cheque back. Start over. Build something honest. Mom pulled me into a hug. This time I let her. Harvard won't know what hit them, Mia said, joining us. I touched my valedictorian medal, thinking of Aidan's face as they led him away. He thought family was a weakness to exploit. He never understood it was a strength to protect. Ready to go? Mia asked. I looked at my parents, at my support system, at the future stretching ahead. More than ready. It's time for a new chapter. Behind us, the auditorium emptied of graduates and dreams and second chances. Ahead lay Harvard justice and the sweet taste of victory. The courthouse steps felt different this time. No fear, no uncertainty. Just the weight of justice finally being served. Guilty on all counts, Mia read from her phone as we walked out. Financial fraud, forgery, witness intimidation. Don't forget the casino conspiracy charges, Ivy added, looking satisfied. That IT manager rolled over on him beautifully. Van adjusted his tie. 8 to 12 years minimum, plus full restitution to all victims. My parents waited by the car, holding hands like they used to before everything fell apart. Mom's eyes were red from crying, but she was smiling. Harvard called, she said. Your scholarship package is finalised, and the restitution money will cover the rest, Dad added. You're all set for fall. I touched the acceptance letter in my pocket, my talisman through all of this. It doesn't feel real. Oh, it's real! Jessica appeared with Michael and Sarah. We all got our settlement notifications this morning. What will you do with yours? Mia asked them. Going back to school, Sarah said firmly. Starting my own business. Michael smiled. A legitimate one. Therapy, Jessica laughed. Lots of therapy. A commotion at the courthouse doors drew our attention. Aidan emerged in handcuffs, his designer clothes replaced by prison orange. Our eyes met as they led him to the transport van. Jackie, he called out, we're still family. You can't just... Family? I walked toward him, stopping just out of reach. Let me tell you about family, cousin. Family is Jessica missing her mother's funeral because you stole her plane ticket money. Family is Michael losing his house. Family is Sarah having to drop out of medical school. I was going to pay it all back. No, you weren't. You were going to keep running, keep stealing, keep destroying lives. But you forgot something important. What's that? He sneered. Family fights back. The van doors slammed shut on his face. As it drove away, I felt a weight lift, not just from my shoulders, but from all of us. Your parents are watching, Mia murmured beside me. I turned to see them standing awkwardly by their car, uncertainty written across their faces. The distance between us felt both vast and paper-thin. Go, Ivy nudged me. Some bridges are worth rebuilding. Walking over, I saw the familiar diner across the street where everything had started, where I'd served countless plates while plotting justice, where I'd finally turned the tables on Aidan. We're having a celebration dinner, Mom said hesitantly. Nothing fancy, just... The diner, I suggested. Dad's face lit up. You'll come? On one condition, I met their eyes. No more blind trust, no more family means everything excuses. We build something real this time. Deal, they said together. Inside, Tommy had our usual booth ready. On the house today, kid. You earned it. Mia slid in beside me, Ivy and Van across from us. My parents took the adjacent booth with Jessica, Michael and Sarah. To justice, Van raised his coffee cup. To new beginnings, Mom added. To Harvard, Mia grinned. To family, I said quietly. The real kind. My phone buzzed, an email from Harvard confirming my housing assignment. Next to it was a message from the investigator training program Ivy had recommended. Still interested? She asked, noticing my screen. Let me get through law school first. Law school? Dad looked surprised. Someone has to protect people from guys like Aidan. I stirred my coffee. Might as well be me. The diner's bell chimed as more customers entered. Outside, life moved on. Aidan was gone, but his impact remained. In our scars, our strength, our stories. You know what the best revenge is? Mia asked suddenly. What's that? Living well. I looked around the diner, at my parents trying so hard to make amends, at the other victims turning their pain into purpose, at my support system that never wavered. No, I corrected her. The best revenge is living truthfully. Everything else follows from that. Mom reached across the aisle, touching my hand. This time, I didn't pull away. I'm proud of you, she whispered. I know. I squeezed her hand. I'm proud of me too. Outside, the Harvard acceptance letter crinkled in my pocket. No longer a dream deferred, but a future earned. Aidan had tried to steal my chances, but he'd given me something instead. The strength to fight back, the wisdom to see through lies, and the courage to demand justice. Sometimes family isn't what you're born into. Sometimes it's what you build from the ashes of betrayal. And sometimes, just sometimes, those bonds are stronger than blood. Tommy brought our usual orders, and the diner filled with conversation and laughter. The taste of victory, I discovered, was sweeter than revenge, and best served with people who'd earned their place at your table.
The scent of cinnamon and pine needles filled my studio as I hung the last ornament on my makeshift Christmas tree, really just a collection of my paint-splattered easels arranged in a triangle, draped with twinkling lights. I stepped back, admiring how the golden glow transformed my usually chaotic workspace into something magical. This would be perfect for tomorrow's family Christmas gathering, where I'd finally show them my art wasn't just a hobby. My name is Alina, and I'd spent the last 3 years building my dream, this small but vibrant art studio in downtown Boston, far from my family's mansion in Beacon Hill. The space wasn't much, but it was mine. My phone buzzed. Mom. Alina, dear, your father and I need to speak with you. Now. Mom, it's Christmas Eve. I'm preparing for tomorrow's. This can't wait. We're outside your studio. My stomach dropped at her tone. I hurried downstairs, where my parents' black Mercedes stuck out like a sore thumb among the neighborhood's beat-up Hondas and Toyotas. Darling, Mom said as I opened the door, her Hermes scarf wrapped tight against the December chill. This really can't go on. Dad stood behind her, his usual commanding presence somehow more severe in the dim streetlight. Come inside, I said, leading them up the narrow staircase. I've decorated for tomorrow. I thought maybe we could have the family gathering here this year, show everyone what I've been working on. That's precisely what we need to discuss, Dad cut in, his voice sharp. This experiment of yours has gone far enough. I switched on the studio lights, illuminating my latest pieces, large, bold canvases exploring themes of freedom and constraint. Mom visibly winced at a particularly vibrant abstract. The Stevensons asked about you at the club yesterday, Mom said, perching herself on the edge of my paint-stained couch. I had to lie about where you were. Do you know how humiliating that was? I don't understand. I'm working, creating art. Creating embarrassment, Dad interrupted. The Rice name means something in this city. We can't have our daughter playing artist in some rundown neighborhood. Playing artist? My voice cracked. I sold 3 pieces last month. I'm having a show in February. Enough. Dad pulled out his phone, showing me a real estate listing. We've found a buyer for this space, above market value. The money will help you start fresh, perhaps in marketing or PR. Something respectable. The room started spinning. You're trying to sell my studio? You can't. The lease is in my name. We've spoken to the building owner, Mom said softly, as if gentleness could soften the blow. He's willing to break your lease, given our influence. This is my life, I whispered, touching one of my canvases. My work. It's time to grow up, Alina, Dad said. You have until New Year's to decide. Either sell this place and come back to the family business, or what? Mom stood, straightening her Chanel jacket. Or we'll have to distance ourselves completely. No more trust fund, no family connections, no support. You'll be on your own. The Christmas lights twinkled mockingly in the silence that followed. You're asking me to choose between my passion and my family? My voice was steady, surprising even myself. We're asking you to choose a proper future, Dad corrected. The Rice name. Is that all you care about? The family name? Don't be dramatic, darling, Mom sighed. We're trying to help you. I looked around my studio, at the paint-splattered floors, the half-finished canvases, the Christmas decorations I'd hung with such hope just hours ago. Then at my parents, standing there in their expensive clothes, trying to erase everything I'd built. Get out. Excuse me? Dad's face reddened. I said get out, both of you. If you can't support who I am, what I love, then maybe we shouldn't be family at all. Alina, think about what you're saying, Mom pleaded. I have thought about it every day for the past 3 years while you've been ashamed of me. Now please, leave. They left without another word, the door closing with a final click. I stood there, surrounded by my art, my dreams, my rebellion, until the tears finally came. My phone buzzed again. Yolanda, my best friend. Still on for Christmas cookies tonight? Through blurry eyes, I typed, change of plans. Bring wine instead. I grabbed my coat and headed for the door, pausing to look back at my makeshift Christmas tree. The lights still twinkled, but now they seemed to shine with a different purpose. Not celebration, but defiance. 3 months after Christmas, I was still finding tinsel in odd corners of my studio. Each sparkly reminder felt like a tiny knife to the gut. I hadn't heard from my parents since that night, though their ultimatum had been carried out with surgical precision. Bank accounts closed, credit cards cancelled, my name quietly removed from every family registry. Earth to Alina! Yolanda waved her hand in front of my face, splattering drops of coffee on my workspace. "You're doing that 1,000-yard stare again." "Sorry," I mumbled, turning back to my canvas. "Just thinking about rent." "Stop." Yolanda put down her mug and grabbed my shoulders. "You sold 2 pieces last week. Rent is covered. Now focus on finishing these for the spring showcase." I nodded, picking up my brush again. The piece I was working on was different from my usual style. Darker, more intense. Raw emotion bleeding through every brush stroke. "Holy shit," Yolanda whispered, stepping back to look at the canvas. "This is intense. Like looking straight into someone's soul while it's breaking. Too much?" "No, it's perfect. People are going to—" The studio door opened, cutting her off. A man in an impeccably tailored suit stood in the doorway, looking oddly at home despite the paint-splattered surroundings. "I apologize for interrupting," he said, stepping inside. "The gallery downstairs said I might find Alina here." "That's me," I said, wiping my hands on my already stained jeans. "Harrison Matthews." He extended his hand. "I saw your piece, Fractured Inheritance, at the Small Works show last month." My heart stopped. Harrison Matthews was one of the most influential art collectors in New England. I'd read about him in every major art publication. "I've been following your work since then," he continued, walking around my studio. "Your evolution over the past few months is remarkable." He stopped in front of my current piece, studying it intently. "There's pain here," he said quietly, "but also defiance, strength." He turned to face me. "Would you tell me about it?" "It's personal," I managed. "The best art always is," he smiled. "That's why I'm here. I'm curating a special exhibition at the Gardner Museum next month. Theme is breaking patterns. I'd like to feature your work." Yolanda squeaked behind me. "The Gardner?" I breathed. "But that's where your mother hosts her annual charity gala." Harrison's eyes twinkled. "Yes, I'm aware of your connection to the Rice family. In fact, I find it adds a fascinating layer to your work." My hands started shaking. "They wouldn't want me there." "Art isn't about want, Ms. Rice. It's about need. And right now, the art world needs voices like yours, authentic, unflinching, real." He pulled out a business card, placing it on my workbench. "Think about it. The exhibition opens May 15th. I'd need at least 3 pieces, including this one." He gestured to my current work. "Your family's gala is the following week, I believe?" I nodded, unable to speak. "Perfect timing, wouldn't you say?" He headed for the door, then paused. "Oh, and Alina, don't let them dim your light. Some of the greatest art comes from breaking free of gilded cages." After he left, Yolanda and I stood in stunned silence. "Did that just happen?" she finally whispered. "I can't do it," I said, sinking onto my paint-stained couch. "Show my work there, they'll see it as an attack." "Good," Yolanda sat beside me. "They deserve it. They tried to buy your silence, your compliance. Show them what happens when you try to cage an artist." I picked up Harrison's card, running my finger over the embossed lettering. "It would destroy them," I murmured. "Socially, professionally. Mom's been on the museum's board for decades, and now you have the chance to show them exactly what they tried to throw away." Yolanda grabbed my shoulders again. "This isn't just an opportunity, Alina. It's justice." I stood up, walking to my easel. The painting stared back at me, all sharp edges and bleeding colors, beauty born from pain. "You're right," I said, picking up my brush. "But if I'm going to do this, I'm going to need bigger canvases." Yolanda grinned, already pulling out her phone. "I'll call Marco at the supply store, and then we're getting champagne. Lots of it." As she dialed, I studied my work with new eyes. Each brushstroke now felt like a word in a letter I'd been trying to write for months. Maybe it was time to stop hiding my truth behind polite silence. My phone buzzed, a text from Harrison. "The world is ready for your voice. Are you ready to use it?" I took a deep breath and typed back one word. Yes. More red, Harrison said, studying my latest piece. The emotion's there, but it needs to bleed more. I mixed cadmium red with a touch of burnt umber, letting the colors swirl together like wine. Over the past month, my studio had transformed into a battlefield of massive canvases, each one larger and more confrontational than the last. Better, he nodded as I added the darker shade. Now tell me again what this piece represents. The suffocation of expectations, I said, stepping back. The weight of a name that feels more like a prison than a legacy. Good. Make them feel that weight. The studio door creaked open, and a familiar figure stepped in. Uncle Sullivan, his silver hair disheveled as always, looking completely out of place in his worn leather jacket among my pristine canvases. Well, he whistled. Looks like little Alina's not so little anymore. Uncle Sully? I nearly dropped my brush. How did you— Your friend Yolanda told me where to find you. He approached slowly, taking in each painting. Reese, your mother. She's been telling everyone you're finding yourself in Europe. Harrison raised an eyebrow. And you didn't believe that? Please, Sullivan scoffed. I've been the family disappointment for 30 years. I know what exile looks like. He turned to me. Though you're handling it with considerably more style than I did, Mr. Matthews, I said, this is my Uncle Sullivan. He's the only one in the family who ever supported my art. Ah, another black sheep? Harrison smiled. Those are always my favorite members of any family. Sullivan stopped in front of my centerpiece, a massive canvas depicting a golden cage with broken bars, birds escaping into a blood-red sky. They're talking about you, you know, he said quietly, at their precious social clubs. Your cousin Genesis keeps dropping hints about your unfortunate choices. Genesis? I hadn't thought about my cousin in months. What's she saying? Nothing directly, just enough to make sure everyone knows the Rice family is disappointed. He turned to face me. But that's not why I'm here. From his jacket, he pulled out a worn leather-bound book. Your grandmother's journal. Found it while cleaning out my attic. Mom's mother? I took the book carefully. Read it, he said, especially the entries from 1962. Might help with— He gestured to my paintings. All this. I opened the journal to a random page, my grandmother's elegant handwriting filling the yellowed paper. They say a woman's duty is to uphold the family name. But what if the name itself is built on silence? She wanted to be a writer, Sullivan explained. Wrote 3 novels before your grandfather made her stop. Said it wasn't proper for his wife to tell stories. Harrison stepped forward, suddenly interested. Did she ever publish? Under a pen name? Sullivan nodded. After he died. Won some awards too, but by then Reese was grown, already married to Bennett, already obsessed with being proper. He touched the journal gently. Your grandmother died thinking she'd failed as a mother because Reese turned out exactly as your grandfather wanted. My hands shook as I held the journal. Why are you showing me this? Because you need to understand this fight you're fighting, it's not new, it's in your blood. He looked at my paintings again. But you've got something your grandmother didn't have. You've got guts, kid, and timing. Harrison cleared his throat. The exhibition opens in 2 weeks. The gala's the week after. I know, Sullivan grinned. Already got my ticket. Wouldn't miss it for the world. They'll try to stop it, I said. Once they find out, let them try. Sullivan's voice hardened. I've watched that family crush too many dreams. It's time someone showed them what happens when art refuses to be silenced. He headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Alina? Genesis is having lunch at Stephanie's tomorrow. Noon. Just thought you might want to know. After he left, Harrison and I stood in silence, looking at my grandmother's journal. Well, Harrison finally said, I believe we just found the missing piece for your exhibition. What do you mean? Your grandmother's words combined with your art. He gestured expansively. It's not just your story anymore. It's a legacy of rebellion. I opened the journal again, reading another entry. Art isn't proper. Art isn't polite. Art is truth, and truth is always dangerous to those who build their lives on lies. I need more canvas, I said, already reaching for my phone. And I need to make a lunch reservation for tomorrow. Harrison smiled. Now that's the fire I've been looking for. Show them what happens when you try to cage 2 generations of artists. I looked at my paintings, at my grandmother's journal, at the future suddenly opening up before me. No, I said, I'll show them what happens when the cage finally breaks. Stephanie's hadn't changed. Same white tablecloths, same soft jazz, same wealthy clientele pretending not to watch each other over their overpriced salads. I spotted Genesis immediately, her perfect blonde hair catching the sunlight as she typed on her phone. Well, look who's still in Boston, I said, sliding into the seat across from her. Genesis jumped, nearly dropping her phone. Alina? I thought you were in Europe. Did Mom tell you that? I signaled the waiter. Martini? Extra dirty. She'll have another glass of her rosé. How did you know what I was drinking? Some things never change, I smiled. Like how you always meet your gossip sources here at noon on Tuesdays. Genesis shifted uncomfortably. I don't know what you're... Please, you've been dropping hints about my unfortunate choices all over town. At least have the courage to say it to my face. The waiter brought our drinks. Genesis took a large sip of hers. Aunt Reese is devastated, she finally said. You're breaking her heart. By following my passion? By refusing to be another empty socialite? By embarrassing the family? Do you know what people are saying? Actually, I don't. Tell me. Genesis leaned forward, lowering her voice. They're saying you had some kind of breakdown, that you're living in some dirty artist commune doing God knows what. I laughed, loud enough to make nearby diners turn. Is that the best you could come up with? It's not funny, Alina. The gala's coming up, and everyone's asking if you'll be there. Aunt Reese had to tell the board you're dealing with personal issues. Personal issues? I took a sip of my martini. Like finally being honest about who I am? Like throwing away everything your parents gave you for some hobby. Hobby? I pulled out my phone, showing her Harrison's latest email. Is that what you call being featured at the Gardner? Genesis's face went pale as she read. The Gardner? But that's where Mom's hosting the gala. Yeah, funny coincidence, isn't it? You can't, she whispered. It would destroy her. Like she tried to destroy me? I stood up, dropping money on the table. You know what the difference is between you and me, Genesis? I actually have talent, real talent, not just a trust fund and a good name. Wait, Genesis grabbed my arm. There's something you should know about the gala. What about it? Aunt Reese, she's announcing her nomination for the museum's board presidency that night. It's practically guaranteed, unless something embarrasses her? I smiled. Like her disowned daughter having an exhibition in the same museum? Please, Alina, she's worked so hard for this. So have I. I pulled my arm free, and unlike her, I earned every bit of it. You're just doing this for revenge. No, I said, gathering my coat. I'm doing this because I'm an artist. The revenge is just a bonus. I was halfway to the door when Genesis called out. They'll never forgive you for this. I turned back. Maybe. But I'll never forgive them for making me choose between their love and my truth. Outside, my phone buzzed. A text from Harrison. How did lunch go? Better than expected, I replied. Genesis just gave me exactly what I needed. Which is? The perfect timing for my exhibition's opening night. Back at the studio, I found Uncle Sullivan waiting, a mischievous glint in his eye. Heard you had lunch with Genesis, he said. How's our little informant? Terrified? I picked up my brush, facing my largest canvas yet. She told me about Mom's board nomination. Ah, he nodded. the crown jewel in Reese's social climbing career. Did you know? Why do you think I showed up now? He grinned. Sometimes the best revenge is just perfect timing. I started mixing colors, deep blues and violent purples. This isn't just about revenge anymore, Sully. I found Grandma's last novel in her journal. The one about the woman who burned down her husband's social club? No, I smiled, making the first bold stroke across the canvas. The one about her daughter, who grew up to be exactly what her father wanted, and exactly what her mother feared. Sullivan watched me paint in silence for a moment. Your mother never read it, you know. I know. I stepped back, studying the emerging image. But she's about to see it, all of it, in living color. They'll try to stop you, he warned, once they realize what's coming. Let them try. I dipped my brush in red. Some stories need to be told, even if they burn everything down in the process. And you're ready for that fire? I thought of Genesis's face when she read Harrison's email, of my grandmother's hidden novels, of my mother's carefully constructed world of appearances. I'm not just ready, I said, making another bold stroke. I'm the one lighting the match. It's done, I whispered, stepping back from the final piece. 3 days before the exhibition opening, and my hands were trembling from exhaustion and too much coffee, Harrison circled the massive canvas slowly, his footsteps echoing in the pre-dawn quiet of my studio. The painting towered over us, 12 feet of carefully controlled chaos. At its center, a woman in a golden dress stood in a shattered mirror, her reflection fracturing into hundreds of smaller images, each showing a different truth. This is it, he said finally. This is the one we'll unveil at the opening. My phone buzzed. Another frantic text from Genesis. Please call me. Mom knows something's happening. She's making calls. Let her call, Yolanda said, reading over my shoulder. What can she do? The exhibition's already been announced. The studio door burst open, making us all jump. My mother stood there, perfect as always in her Chanel suit, looking wildly out of place among the paint-splattered walls. So it's true, she said, her voice tight. You're really doing this. Mom! My voice came out steadier than I felt. You can't be here. Can't be here. She stepped inside, her heels clicking on the concrete floor. I'm your mother. I have every right. No, I cut her off. You lost that right when you tried to buy my silence. She stopped, finally seeing the paintings around her. Her face went pale as she took in each image, the broken cage, the shattered mirrors, the words from my grandmother's journal woven through every canvas. You can't show these, she whispered. Do you have any idea what this will do? To your reputation? I moved between her and the centerpiece. Your precious board nomination? To our family. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. Whatever point you're trying to make. This isn't about making a point. Harrison stepped forward. This is about art. Real art, the kind that tells truth. And who are you to judge what truth is? Mom turned on him. You have no idea what our family... He knows exactly what this family is, I interrupted, because I showed him, in every brushstroke, every color, every hidden message. Hidden message? Her eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? I picked up my grandmother's journal from my workbench. Did you ever wonder why Grandma spent so much time in her study? What she was writing all those years? Don't! Her voice shook. Don't you dare bring her into this. She brought herself into this 30 years ago. I opened the journal to the marked page. When she wrote about watching her daughter become everything she feared. Stop it. My Reese, I read aloud. So desperate to be what they want, she's forgotten who she is. My beautiful girl, trading her soul for social standing. I said stop. She grabbed for the journal, but I pulled it away. The exhibition opens in 3 days, I said. Every piece tells a story. Grandma's, mine, yours, about women who silence themselves to please others. I'm calling our lawyers. She reached for her phone. This is defamation. It's art, Harrison cut in. Protected speech. And considering the press already has the preview materials. Mom froze. What press? Boston Globe, Art News, Forbes. Harrison smiled. They're particularly interested in the family connection, the prodigal daughter's triumphant return, exposing the dark side of Boston's elite society. You wouldn't, she whispered. Watch me. She looked around the studio one last time, her eyes lingering on the centerpiece. For a moment, I saw something flicker across her face, recognition, maybe even understanding. Your father will never forgive this, she said quietly. I know. We'll be ruined. No, I stepped closer. You'll just finally be seen, the real you, not the perfect facade you've built. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. That woman in the painting, in the gold dress? Yes, she looks like me, at your age. She is you, Mom, the you that existed before you let them cage you. She didn't respond, just closed the door softly behind her. The studio fell silent. Well, Yolanda finally said. That was intense. It's not over, Harrison warned. She'll try something before the opening. Let her. I turned back to the centerpiece, touching the still wet paint gently. Some things need to be broken before they can be fixed. My phone buzzed again. Uncle Sullivan. Just heard Reese was at your studio. You okay? Better than okay, I typed back. The final piece is done. And? I looked at the painting, at the woman in the golden dress, at all the fractured truths finally coming to light. And it's beautiful, I replied. Terrifyingly beautiful. The Gardner Museum hummed with anticipation. Through the gallery windows, I watched Boston's elite arrive in their designer clothes and practiced smiles, air-kissing and exchanging pleasantries as if this were just another opening night. They have no idea what's coming, do they? Yolanda adjusted my black dress, a far cry from the paint-stained clothes I usually wore. 5 minutes until doors open, Harrison announced, appearing beside us. The press is already asking about the covered centerpiece. Let them ask. I touched the massive velvet drape hiding my final piece. Some surprises are worth waiting for. The gallery doors opened, and the crowd flowed in like an expensive tide. I recognized faces from my old life, board members, family friends, social climbers who'd once smiled at me at country club brunches. Now they whispered behind their champagne glasses, pointing discreetly at my paintings. Darling, Uncle Sullivan's voice boomed across the room. He wrapped me in a bear hug, smelling of leather and good scotch. They're all here, every last one of them. Mom and Dad? Back corner, Reese is doing her best to pretend this isn't happening, but Bennett looks like he's about to burst a blood vessel. I glanced where he indicated. My parents stood rigid, barely touching their champagne. Mom wore her armor, a perfectly tailored Oscar de la Renta gown, while Dad's jaw clenched visibly, even from across the room. Ladies and gentlemen, Harrison's voice cut through the murmurs. If you'll gather round, we're about to begin. The crowd shifted, forming a loose semicircle around the covered centerpiece. I saw Genesis slip in late, her face pale as she took in the other paintings. Tonight, Harrison continued, we celebrate not just art, but truth. The kind of truth that often hides behind family names and social expectations. He gestured to me. Alina? My heels clicked against the marble floor as I stepped forward. The crowd's silence felt heavy, expectant. These paintings tell a story, I said, my voice carrying in the hushed space. Not just my story, but the story of every person who's ever been told to be less, to be quiet, to be proper. I met my mother's eyes across the room. It's about the cages we build, the masks we wear, and what happens when we finally break free. I nodded to Harrison. 2 assistants stepped forward, gripping the velvet drape. Mother, I said clearly, this one's for you. The drape fell, Gasps echoed through the gallery. In the stunning silence that followed, I heard my mother's sharp intake of breath. The painting towered over everyone, 12 feet of carefully controlled chaos. The woman in the golden dress, my mother's younger self, stood among shattered mirrors, each fragment reflecting a different truth. A young girl writing poetry, a woman crying behind closed doors, a daughter becoming her father's perfect creation. And woven through it all, in delicate gold script, were my grandmother's words: "The greatest tragedy is not the breaking of a heart, but the silencing of a soul." "Oh my God," Genesis whispered loudly. "Those are Aunt Reese's journals." "No," my mother's voice cut through the silence. She stepped forward, her hands shaking. "Those are my mother's words, the ones I pretended not to hear, the ones I tried so hard to forget." The crowd parted as she approached the painting. Up close, the details were unmistakable: the exact shade of her favorite childhood dress, the diary she used to hide under her mattress, the dreams she packed away to become the perfect society wife. "You had no right," she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. "I had every right," I replied softly. "Just like Grandma had every right to write her novels. Just like I have every right to paint my truth." Dad stepped forward, his face dark with rage. "This ends now. I'll buy every painting. Name your price." "They're not for sale," Harrison interjected smoothly. "In fact, they've already been acquired by the museum's permanent collection." The whispers grew louder. Mom swayed slightly, reaching for support. "Reese?" A board member approached cautiously. "Perhaps we should discuss the nomination." "No need," my mother said, her voice suddenly clear. She turned to face the crowd, her spine straightening. "I'm withdrawing my name." "Mom?" Genesis gasped. "It's time for some truth, isn't it?" Mom looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in months. "My daughter isn't the disappointment here. I am. I disappointed myself, my mother, and worst of all, I disappointed the artist my daughter became." She touched the painting gently, tracing one of the written lines. "The silencing of a soul," she murmured. Then, louder, "Well, no more silence. Not tonight." The gallery erupted in chaos, but all I could see was my mother's face, transformed by something that looked surprisingly like freedom. Uncle Sullivan appeared at my side, grinning. "Now that," he whispered, "is what I call a masterpiece." The aftermath of the exhibition opening felt like the eye of a hurricane. Reporters swarmed the gallery, cameras flashing, questions flying. Dad had stormed out, followed by most of his business associates. Genesis hovered uncertainly between groups, her social butterfly wings finally clipped. "Ms. Rice," a reporter thrust a microphone toward me. "Your exhibition seems to be a direct critique of Boston's elite society. Was that your intention?" Before I could answer, my mother stepped forward. "My daughter," she said clearly, "has done what I never had the courage to do. She told the truth." The reporters turned to her like sharks sensing blood. "Mrs. Rice, how do you respond to the personal nature of these paintings?" "Personal?" Mom laughed, a sound I hadn't heard in years. "Art should be personal. It should hurt. It should heal. My daughter's work does both." Harrison appeared at my side. "The Times is calling it a searing indictment of generational trauma disguised as social obligation." "Disguised?" Uncle Sullivan snorted, joining us. "Looks pretty damn obvious to me." A commotion near the entrance drew our attention. My father had returned, this time with a man in an expensive suit clutching a leather briefcase. "That's enough," Dad announced, his voice cutting through the chaos. "This exhibition is over. My lawyer has prepared an injunction." "On what grounds?" Harrison stepped forward, smiling pleasantly. "Defamation, invasion of privacy. Take your pick." "Everything here is either artistic interpretation or documented fact," Harrison replied. "The museum's lawyers have already reviewed." "I don't care about your lawyers." Dad's face reddened. "This is family business." "No," Mom's voice rang out. This is art, and it's staying. Dad turned to her, shocked. Reese, you can't be serious. After what she's done to us. What she's done? Mom walked to the centerpiece, gesturing at the fractured reflections. Look at it, Bennett. Really look. This isn't just about Alina, it's about me, about my mother, about every woman in this family who was told to be less than she was. Your mother? Dad scoffed. What does she have to do with everything? Mom pulled a small book from her clutch, my grandmother's journal. Did you know she published novels under a pen name? Did you know she won awards? She opened the journal. Did you know she wrote about me? The gallery had gone silent, everyone watching this unexpected drama unfold. I found her journals after she died, Mom continued, but I was too afraid to read them, too afraid to see myself through her eyes. She looked at me. Until now. Mrs. Rice, another reporter called out, are you saying you support your daughter's exhibition? Support it? Mom smiled, a real smile that made her look years younger. I'm proud of it, proud of her. For the first time in my life, I'm seeing the truth about our family, about myself, and yes, it hurts, but it's beautiful too. Dad's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Rice, if your wife isn't willing to support the injunction, to hell with the injunction, Dad snapped. Reese, think about what you're doing. The board position is less important than my daughter. Mom turned to the crowd. Yes, I'm withdrawing from the board nomination because it's time for new voices, new perspectives. It's time for truth. Genesis suddenly stepped forward. Aunt Reese is right. She faced the reporters. This family, we've all been living behind masks. Alina's just the first one brave enough to break hers. The reporters surged forward again, questions overlapping. Through the chaos, I felt a hand slip into mine. Mom. I'm sorry, she whispered, for everything, for trying to make you smaller to fit our world. Mom. No, let me finish. She squeezed my hand. Your grandmother would have loved these paintings. She would have loved the artist you've become. Dad stood alone now, his lawyer already retreating. He looked lost, a king watching his kingdom crumble. Bennett, Mom called to him, it's over. The perfect family, the perfect image. It's all over, and thank God for that. He left without a word, but this time no one followed. Harrison cleared his throat. The Boston Globe wants an interview with both of you. Mom looked at me questioningly. Together? I nodded, feeling something shift between us, like a door opening or a cage breaking. Together. As the reporters gathered around us, I caught Uncle Sullivan's eye. He raised his champagne glass in a silent toast, grinning like a proud conspirator. So, the Globe reporter began, tell us about the woman in the golden dress. Mom and I looked at each other, then at the painting that had started it all, the truth teller, the mirror breaker, the story we'd both needed to tell. Well, we said in unison, and for the first time in years we both started laughing. Spring sunlight streamed through my studio windows as I added the final touches to my newest piece. The door creaked open and Mom stepped in, carrying 2 cups of coffee and a familiar leather-bound journal. Still using Grandma's words? She asked, setting down the cups. They feel like mine now, too. I stepped back from the canvas. What do you think? The painting showed 2 women at a writing desk. One older, one younger. Their faces reflected in the same mirror. Unlike my previous work, this one felt lighter, more hopeful. She would have loved it, Mom said, touching the canvas gently. Both the painting and the gallery. We'd converted Dad's old downtown office building into an art gallery and writing space, renamed it the Storyteller's Studio. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Have you heard from him? I asked, accepting the coffee. Bennett's in London, Mom shrugged. Apparently there's less scrutiny there, though Genesis tells me he's actually reading your interviews. And how is our favorite reformed socialite? Mom laughed. Genesis is thriving at art school. Who knew she had such talent for photography? Though she says documentary work is way harder than Instagram. The studio door burst open again as Yolanda rushed in, waving her phone. You're trending again. The Times piece about female artists breaking family traditions just dropped. Show me, Mom and I said together, then laughed at our synchronicity. As Yolanda pulled up the article, Harrison appeared in the doorway. Ladies, the writing workshop starts in 10 minutes. We've got a full house, including 3 society wives, Yolanda whispered dramatically. Apparently, your mother's writing group is becoming quite scandalous. Mom straightened her shoulders, a gesture I'd seen countless times at charity galas, but now it looked different, proud rather than proper. Well, scandal is better than silence, isn't it? Speaking of silence, Harrison said, Sullivan's downstairs with some interesting news. Uncle Sullivan bounded up the stairs moments later, his leather jacket now adorned with paint stains from helping around the studio. You'll never believe what I found in the old family storage unit. He pulled out a manuscript, yellowed with age. Your grandmother's last novel, the one she never published. Mom's hands shook as she took it. The Price of Proper, she read, by Elizabeth Grace. Her pen name, I said softly. There's a note inside, Sullivan pointed. Dated the week before she died. Mom opened it carefully, her voice catching as she read, To my Reese, and to her daughter, and to every daughter who follows, may you find the courage to tell your stories, paint your truths, and break whatever cages they build around you. The world needs your voice more than it needs your silence. The studio fell quiet, broken only by the sounds of aspiring artists and writers gathering downstairs. Well, Harrison said, checking his watch, shall we tell them they're about to be part of literary history? Wait, I said, turning to Mum. Read it to them. Grandma's novel. Start today. Me? Mum clutched the manuscript. But I'm not. You're exactly who should read it. I took her hand. The daughter who found her voice again. She looked at the manuscript, then at my painting of the 2 women at the desk. On one condition. Name it. You paint while I read. Let them see both forms of storytelling. Deal. As we headed downstairs, Yolanda nudged me. Look at us, running an arts collective in your father's old temple of capitalism. If that's not poetic justice... The workshop space was packed. Women of all ages looked up expectantly, notebooks and laptops open, some with paintbrushes already in hand. Ladies, Mom said, stepping to the front, today we're going to talk about legacy, not the kind that's handed down in trust funds or social standings, but the kind that flows through ink and paint and courage. She held up the manuscript. This is my mother's story, and my daughter's story, but most importantly, it could be your story too. I set up my easel beside her, mixing colors that felt like freedom. Chapter 1, Mom began reading, her voice strong and clear. The day I decided to disappoint my family was the day I finally began to live. As she read, I painted, and around us, dozens of women began to write and draw, each finding their own way to break their silence. Through the windows, I could see the Boston skyline, the same view Dad once used to survey his domain. But now it looked different. Now it looked like possibility. Uncle Sullivan leaned against the wall, grinning. Now this, he said softly, this is what revolution looks like. I smiled, adding a bright streak of gold to my canvas. No, I replied. This is what freedom looks like. And in that moment, surrounded by art and truth and broken cages, we were all exactly where we needed to be.
The crystal wine glass shattered in my grip, sending shards and red wine cascading across our pristine white tablecloth. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by my mother's sharp intake of breath. I'm Genesis, and this was supposed to be a normal family dinner, but there's nothing normal about being asked to sell your childhood home to fund your sister's wedding. Genesis, darling, you're bleeding, my mother Veronica said, her voice dripping with the same artificial sweetness she used when manipulating potential donors at her charity galas. She dabbed at the spreading wine stain with her napkin, purposefully avoiding my eyes. "I'm fine," I managed through clenched teeth. "What's not fine is you asking me to sell Grandma Elena's house for Chiara's wedding. That house means everything to our family." Ciara, my younger sister, rolled her eyes and reached for her phone. "God, Jen, you're so dramatic. It's just a house, and this is my wedding we're talking about, the biggest day of my life." "Just a house?" The words felt like acid in my mouth. "That house represents everything Grandma worked for. Every double shift, every sacrifice." "Oh, please," my mother interrupted, setting down her wineglass with a sharp clink. "Your grandmother would have wanted Chiara to have her dream wedding. She always said family comes first." "Exactly," I shot back. "Family, not some overpriced party with crystal chandeliers and imported roses." Chiara's head snapped up from her phone. "They're peonies, actually, and they're only from Canada." "The house isn't for sale," I said firmly. End of discussion. My mother's perfectly maintained facade cracked. "Genesis O'Connor, you are being completely selfish. Your sister has found the perfect venue, the perfect dress. Everything is lined up except for the funding. The house is just sitting there, gathering dust." "I live there." "In that tiny neighbourhood? Darling, you could buy a lovely condo downtown with your share of the sale. Something more, suitable for someone in your position." I pushed my chair back from the table, the legs scraping against the hardwood floor. "My position? You mean the position where I'm the only one who seems to remember what that house means? The only one who visited Grandma Elena every single day when she was sick?" "That's not fair," Chiara whined. "I was in college." "You were 20 minutes away at State, posting poolside photos while Grandma was dying." "Enough!" My mother slammed her hand on the table. "Genesis, you're making a scene. This is about family, about supporting your sister, about appearances," I cut in, like always. The room fell silent again. My mother's face had gone rigid, that familiar mask of disapproval I'd grown up with settling into place. "Wyatt's family is expecting a certain standard," Ciara said quietly, naming her fiancé. "The Harrises have a reputation to maintain." I laughed, but there was no humour in it. "Right, because God forbid we disappoint the Harrises. Better to just erase our own family's history instead." My mother stood, smoothing her silk blouse. "I can see you're not in a reasonable mood tonight. We'll discuss this again when you've had time to think about what really matters." "I know exactly what matters," I said, grabbing my purse, "and it's not for sale." As I walked toward the door, Chiara called out, "You know, for someone who claims to care so much about family, you sure have a funny way of showing it." I paused, my hand on the doorknob. Without turning around, I said, "Grandma Elena worked 3 jobs to buy that house. She raised us there after Dad left. She taught us about dignity, about working for what matters. But I guess those lessons didn't stick for everyone." The door slammed behind me with a satisfying bang. In my car, I finally let out the breath I'd been holding, my hands shaking as I gripped the steering wheel. The nerve of them, trying to sell my home, my inheritance, for a single day of extravagance. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. "Think about what you're doing to this family." I stared at the message, feeling something shift inside me. They wanted me to think about what I was doing? Fine, I'd give them something to think about. Starting the engine, I pulled away from my mother's perfectly manicured lawn, her perfectly appointed house, her perfectly planned manipulation. But I wasn't the same little girl who used to bend to her will, not anymore. They wanted a lesson in family values. I'd give them one they'd never forget. The porch steps creaked under my feet as I climbed them, just as they had for the past 30 years. Every sound in this house held a memory, and tonight they were screaming at me louder than ever. I found myself in Grandma Elena's old room, now my bedroom, running my fingers along the worn spines of her books. The faint scent of her lavender perfume still lingered in the pages, even 3 years after her passing. "You wouldn't believe what they're trying to do, Grandma," I whispered, pulling out her favourite photo album. The doorbell rang, startling me. Through the window, I spotted Emmett's familiar silhouette on the porch. I'd texted him about the dinner disaster, and of course he'd come running. "I brought reinforcement," he announced when I opened the door, holding up a bottle of wine and take-out bags. "Though maybe we should skip the wine, considering your earlier glass-crushing performance." I managed a weak smile. "Very funny. Come in." We settled in the kitchen, the same kitchen where Grandma Elena had taught me to make her famous empanadas. Emmett pulled out containers of Thai food, while I grabbed plates from the cabinet she'd hand-painted with tiny blue flowers. "So," he said, passing me the pad Thai, "want to tell me what really happened?" "They want me to sell the house for Kiara's wedding." The words still tasted bitter. Mum actually said it was just gathering dust. Emmett's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "The house that Elena worked 3 jobs to keep? The house where she raised all of you after your dad split?" "The very same." I stabbed at my noodles. "You know what the worst part is? They act like I'm the unreasonable one, like I'm somehow betraying the family by not funding Kiara's fairy tale wedding." "Show me the album," Emmett said suddenly, nodding toward the photo album I'd brought down with me. I opened it to a worn page. "Here, this was taken the day Grandma Elena made the final payment on the house." The photograph showed a younger Elena, her dark hair streaked with grey, standing proudly on these very porch steps. Her nurse's uniform was wrinkled from a double shift, but her smile could have lit up the whole street. "She worked so hard," I said softly. "Night shifts at the hospital, weekends at the diner, alterations for the neighbours, whatever it took to keep this roof over our heads." Emmett studied the photo. "Tell me about that day." "I was 12. Grandma came home from the bank and gathered us all in the living room. She said, 'Miss Amores, this house is ours now, really ours.' Then she took out her old cookie tin." The memory hit me fresh as yesterday. She'd been saving dollar bills in that tin for years, but instead of celebrating by spending them, she sat us down and taught us about sacrifice, about building something that lasts. "What did she do with the money?" "Started college funds for me and Kiara." I laughed without humour. Guess which one of us actually used it for college and which one used it for a spring break trip to Cancun. Emmett leaned back in his chair, a familiar glint in his eye. "You know, speaking of lessons about sacrifice." "What are you thinking?" "Your sister wants her dream wedding, fine. But maybe it's time she learned what real sacrifice looks like. What it actually costs to build something meaningful." I raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "You work in PR, Genesis. You know how to tell a story, and you've got one hell of a story right here." He tapped the photo album. "Maybe it's time everyone else heard it too." The idea started taking shape in my mind. The wedding's going to be covered by that local society magazine Mum loves so much. Exactly. And wouldn't it be interesting if another story ran that day? About a remarkable woman who worked 3 jobs to buy a house. About how that house became a symbol of family sacrifice and determination. About how her granddaughter protected that legacy, I added slowly, while others tried to sell it off for a one-day party. Emmett grinned. "Now you're getting it." I looked around the kitchen at the hand-painted cabinet and the worn spot on the counter where Grandma Elena used to knead dough, at the window where she'd watch for us coming home from school, even after working all night. "They want to talk about family values?" I said, feeling stronger than I had all evening. "Let's show them what that really means." "That's my girl." Emmett raised his water glass. "To Elena, and to teaching some overdue lessons about gratitude." I clinked my glass against his, Grandma's words echoing in my mind. "Sometimes, mi amor, the greatest act of love is standing firm when others want you to fall." Well, I was about to show them just how firmly I could stand. "You want to do what?" Maria, my old friend from the local news station, nearly spat out her coffee across the cafe table. "I want to run a special segment," I repeated, sliding my grandmother's photo across to her. "About family legacy, sacrifice, and what happens when the younger generation loses sight of those values." Maria studied the photo, then looked up at me with narrowed eyes. This wouldn't have anything to do with your sister's upcoming society wedding, would it? It has everything to do with it. I leaned forward. But it's also a legitimate story. An immigrant nurse who worked 3 jobs to provide for her family after her son-in-law abandoned them. Who built something from nothing? That's the kind of story your viewers love. And the fact that it would air during your sister's wedding reception? Pure coincidence, I said, not even trying to sound convincing. Maria sat back, a slow smile spreading across her face. You know what? I'm in. But we need to make this bigger than just family drama. Give me something I can really work with. I pulled out my laptop and opened a folder. I've been doing some digging. Did you know that the neighbourhood where my grandmother's house stands is one of the last historically preserved areas in the city? There's a whole movement to protect these homes from developers who want to tear them down for luxury condos. Now that's an angle, Maria said, her reporter instincts kicking in. The battle between preservation and progress, told through one family's story. Exactly, and I've got more. I showed her another document. These are the property records. My grandmother paid off that house while raising 3 kids and putting 2 through college. Meanwhile, the average home price in our area has tripled in the last decade, making it nearly impossible for working families to achieve what your grandmother did, Maria finished, already taking notes. Genesis, this is gold, but are you sure you want to do this? It's going to cause one hell of a family explosion. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Ciara. Meeting with the wedding planner tomorrow. Mum says you better be there. I showed the message to Maria. See what I'm dealing with? They're not even acknowledging that I said no to selling the house. They just keep pushing ahead, assuming I'll cave. Like you always have before? Exactly. I closed my laptop firmly, but not this time. Maria gathered her things, journalist mode fully engaged. Okay, here's what we'll do. I'll start working on the segment. Family legacy, neighbourhood preservation, the whole package. You get me more details about your grandmother, maybe some interviews with neighbours who knew her, and Genesis. She paused, giving me a serious look. Be careful at that wedding planning meeting tomorrow. Don't show your hand. Don't worry, I said, thinking of the years I'd spent managing PR crises. I know how to play this game. Later that evening, I met Emmett at our favourite bar to update him on the plan. Maria's on board, I told him, sliding onto a bar stool. But she wants to make it bigger than just our family drama. Smart woman, Emmett nodded. The more legitimate the story, the harder it'll be for your mother to dismiss it as just you being difficult. Speaking of difficult, I showed him Chiara's text about the wedding planning meeting. You're going, right? Have to. Need to keep up appearances until everything's in place. I signalled the bartender for another round. But God, sitting there listening to them plan this ridiculous extravaganza while knowing what I'm planning. Think of it as research, Emmett suggested. Every over-the-top detail they add just makes your story more powerful. My phone buzzed again. Another text from my mother. Wear something appropriate tomorrow. The wedding planner is very exclusive. Appropriate, I scoffed, showing Emmett the message. Code for expensive enough to impress people. You know what? Emmett said, a mischievous glint in his eye. Wear your grandmother's old cardigan, the one she used to wear to work night shifts. I laughed, but then stopped. Actually, that's perfect. Subtle enough that they can't complain, but it'll help me remember exactly why I'm doing this. To Elena, Emmett raised his glass. To Justice, I added, clinking my glass against his. As we finished our drinks, I felt a mix of excitement and nervousness building in my stomach. Tomorrow I'd have to sit there and smile while they planned the very event I was planning to hijack. But for once, I wasn't dreading a family obligation. This time, I had a secret weapon, the truth, and soon everyone would know it. Is that what you're wearing? My mother's voice cut through the air as I walked into the upscale wedding boutique. Her eyes fixed on Grandma Elena's worn cardigan, a slight grimace twisting her lips. It's comfortable, I said, settling into one of the plush white chairs. The cardigan still smelled faintly of hospital antiseptic and lavender, exactly as it had when Grandma wore it. Ciara breezed in moments later, trailing shopping bags and our mother's wedding planner, Sophia, who looked like she'd just stepped out of a fashion magazine. "Oh my God, Jen, you look like you're heading to a nursing home," Ciara snickered, dropping into the chair beside me. I fingered the cardigan's worn sleeve. "Funny you should mention nursing. Remember when Grandma Elena would come home from her night shifts and still make us breakfast before school?" "Oh, ancient history," my mother cut in sharply. "Sophia, darling, show us those venue photos again." Sophia pulled out a tablet displaying images of an obscenely expensive hotel ballroom. With the crystal chandeliers and the imported marble flooring, it's absolutely perfect for the society wedding of the year. "Speaking of perfect," my mother said, turning to me with a practiced smile, "have you given any more thought to our discussion about the house?" I took a slow sip of the champagne they'd served us. "Actually, I have. I've been thinking a lot about family legacy lately." "Wonderful!" My mother clasped her hands together. "I'll have the realtor." "And about Grandma Elena's sacrifices," I continued, watching her smile fade. "About how she built something lasting for our family." Ciara groaned. "Oh my God, not this again. Can we focus on my wedding? Sophia, tell them about the ice sculpture idea." "It's a full-size replica of Cinderella's carriage," Sophia gushed, "with actual Swarovski crystals embedded in the ice." I couldn't help myself. "How much is that costing?" "Genesis," my mother warned. "No, I'm curious. How much are we spending on something that's literally going to melt away?" Ciara slammed her champagne glass down. "Why are you being such a bitch about this? It's my special day." "Ladies," Sophia intervened smoothly, "let's talk about the flower arrangements. We've sourced some stunning peonies." "From Canada," I finished. "Yes, Ciara mentioned that multiple times." My mother's face had taken on that dangerous calm I remembered from childhood scoldings. "Genesis, if you're not going to be helpful, perhaps you should leave." "Oh, I'm trying to be helpful," I said, standing up. "I'm trying to help you all remember what actually matters, but you're right, I should go. I have a meeting anyway." "A meeting?" Ciara scoffed. "With who?" I thought of Maria and our plans for the news segment. "Just some people who understand the value of preservation." As I reached the door, my mother called out, "The realtor will be contacting you tomorrow about viewing the house." I turned back, meeting her eyes. "Don't bother. I won't be selling." "You can't keep fighting this," she said. "The wedding is in 3 weeks. The deposits are paid. The invitations are out. The Harrises—" "The Harrises," I cut in, "aren't the ones whose grandmother worked herself to the bone for that house. I am, and I'm done discussing this." I left them sitting there among their luxury wedding catalogues and empty champagne glasses. Outside, my phone buzzed with a text from Maria. "Got the interviews with your old neighbours? They had amazing stories about Elena. This segment is going to be powerful." Another text followed quickly. "Also, found some interesting financial records. Call me." I smiled, thinking of my mother's perfectly curated public image and Ciara's carefully crafted social media presence. They were so focused on appearances, on what the Harrises and their society friends would think. Well, they were about to find out what real people thought about selling off a family legacy for a one-day party. My phone rang. It was Emmett. "How'd it go?" he asked. "About as well as you'd expect. They're still acting like the house sale is a done deal. Mum's even sending a realtor tomorrow." "Perfect," he said. "The more they push, the better our story gets. By the way, I talked to my friend at the Historical Society. He's willing to go on camera about the importance of preserving neighbourhoods like yours." "You're amazing," I said, feeling a surge of gratitude for having him in my corner. "I know." "Oh, and Genesis, please tell me you wore the cardigan." "Of course. Mum looked like she'd swallowed a lemon." His laugh carried me all the way to my car. 3 weeks until the wedding. 3 weeks until they learned what happens when you push too far. 3 weeks until justice would be served. Live on local news. "Are you absolutely sure about this?" Maria asked, replaying the rough cut of the news segment on her laptop. We were sitting in my grandmother's kitchen, the late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the worn linoleum floor. On screen, my old neighbour, Mrs. Rodriguez, was speaking through tears. Elena worked so hard for that house. She'd be heartbroken to see it sold for a party. Heartbroken. I reached forward and paused the video. Play the financial records part again. Maria clicked back. A series of documents filled the screen: bank statements, property records, and hospital pay stubs. Your grandmother made exactly $23,367 the year she bought this house, Maria narrated. She put every penny into keeping it, even working through pneumonia one winter. The doorbell rang, making us both jump. Expecting someone? Maria asked, closing her laptop. I checked my phone and froze. 3 missed calls from my mother. Oh, God! Through the front window I could see Wyatt, Chiara's fiancé, standing on my porch. Of all people, I hadn't expected him. Quick, pack up, I told Maria. Use the back door. I'll handle this. After Maria slipped out, I opened the front door. Wyatt stood there in his expensive suit, looking uncomfortable. Genesis, he said, shifting his weight. Can we talk? I led him into the living room, where he perched awkwardly on Grandma Elena's old armchair. Nice place, he said, looking around. Very homey. That's one way to put it. Why are you here, Wyatt? He cleared his throat. Ciara's upset. She says you're trying to ruin the wedding by refusing to sell this place. Did she tell you why this house matters? Something about your grandmother? He shrugged. Look, I get it. Sentimental value and all that. But my family has certain expectations for this wedding. We're talking about my future wife's happiness here. I studied him carefully. Did you know my grandmother worked 3 jobs to buy this house? No, but did you know she raised us here after our father walked out? That she skipped meals sometimes to make sure we had enough? Wyatt looked increasingly uncomfortable. Genesis, the past is the past. We're talking about Chiara's future, our future. A future built on selling out our family's legacy. It's just a house, he said, echoing my sister's words from that dinner. I stood up. No, it's not just a house, but you'll understand that soon enough. What's that supposed to mean? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Emmett. News segment final, cut ready. It's powerful. You need to see this. I think you should go, I told Wyatt. Tell Ciara I'm not selling. Not now, not ever. After he left, I sank onto the couch, my hands shaking. Seeing Wyatt, hearing him dismiss my grandmother's sacrifice so casually, it made my blood boil, but it also made me question everything. I called Emmett. I just had a visit from the future brother-in-law, I said when he answered. And, I don't know, Emmett. Am I doing the right thing? This could blow up their whole wedding. Come over, he said firmly, right now. 20 minutes later, I was in Emmett's apartment, watching the final cut of the news segment. It was beautiful, powerful, and devastating. Maria had outdone herself. If you pull the plug now, Emmett said as the video ended, you're letting them win, letting them erase everything your grandmother built. But, no buts, look at this. He pulled out his phone and showed me Chiara's latest Instagram post. A photo of her trying on a designer wedding dress with the caption, Only the best for a Harris bride. Yash bling bling, your society wedding. She posted that right after Wyatt left your house, Emmett said. They're not even pretending to care about what this means to you. I took a deep breath, remembering Grandma Elena's words. Stand up for what matters, mi amor, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. You're right, I said. Play it again. We watched the segment one more time. The interviews with neighbours who remembered my grandmother, the documents showing her decades of sacrifice, the current market value of the house versus what an average nurse could afford today, and finally, the part about how her own family wanted to sell it all for a one-day celebration. 3 more days, Emmett said softly. Are you ready? I thought of Wyatt's dismissive attitude, of my mother's manipulation, of Chiara's endless demands. Then I thought of my grandmother, coming home exhausted from night shifts, but still making time to teach us about dignity and worth. "I'm ready," I said. "Let's show them what family legacy really means." The die was cast. In 3 days they'd learn their lesson, live on local news. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear. I stood in front of my grandmother's old vanity mirror, adjusting the bridesmaid's dress my sister had chosen, a hideous pink confection that cost more than 3 months of Grandma Elena's nursing salary. My phone buzzed. "Maria. News van in position. Everything set for 2 p.m. broadcast." Another buzz. "Emmett, you okay?" Before I could respond, someone pounded on my front door. I opened it to find my mother, already dressed for the wedding, her face flushed with anger. "The realtor just called," she snapped, pushing past me into the house. "She says you filed paperwork to have the house designated as a historical landmark." I smoothed my dress. "Did she? How interesting." "Interesting. Genesis, this is sabotage. The wedding starts in 4 hours, and you're still playing these childish games." "Childish?" I walked to the kitchen and pulled out Grandma Elena's old cookie tin from the cabinet. "Let me show you something, Mum." I opened the tin and pulled out a stack of papers. "These are Grandma's pay stubs. Every extra shift, every holiday worked. And these?" I pulled out more documents. Medical bills she paid off for us, college fund contributions, home repair receipts. "What's your point?" "My point is that this house isn't just an asset to be liquidated for Chiara's perfect day. It's years of sacrifice. It's family." My mother's face softened slightly. "Sweetheart, I know you loved your grandmother, but she would have wanted—" "Don't." My voice shook. "Don't you dare tell me what she would have wanted. You barely visited her when she was sick." "I was busy." "We were all busy. I still came. Every day. I sat with her while she told me stories about building a life here, about making something from nothing." The doorbell rang again. This time it was Chiara, already in her wedding dress, mascara running down her face. "The florist just called," she wailed. "They can't get the Canadian peonies through customs. Everything is ruined." Our mother rushed to comfort her. "Darling, we'll figure something out. Genesis, make yourself useful and call around to local florists." I checked my phone instead. Another text from Maria. "Interview with Historical Society expert recorded and ready. This story's going to be huge." "Genesis," my mother snapped, "your sister needs you." I looked at them both. My mother cradling Chiara, who was sobbing about flowers that cost more than Grandma Elena made in a month. Neither of them sparing a glance for the house around them, the home that held our history in every crack and corner. "I have to go check on something," I said, grabbing my purse. "I'll meet you at the church." "If you ruin this wedding," Chiara called after me, "I'll never forgive you." I paused at the door. "You know what's funny? Grandma Elena used to say that forgiveness was free, but trust had to be earned. I wonder what she'd say about trying to sell her life's work for party decorations." I left them standing in the hallway, surrounded by the ghost of a woman whose sacrifices they'd forgotten. At the local news station, Maria was putting the finishing touches on the segment. "Last chance to back out," she said, watching me pace. "No turning back now." I checked my watch. "The reception starts at 1:30. You'll go live at 2 hours?" "Right when the speeches begin." She hesitated. "Genesis, this is going to change everything. Your family—" "Needs to remember where they came from," I finished. "Need to remember what really matters." My phone buzzed again. "Emmett. In position at the reception hall. You sure about this?" I typed back, "Absolutely." One last text came through, this time from my mother. "Where are you? The ceremony starts in an hour. Don't you dare embarrass us in front of the Harrises." I looked at the final cut of the news segment playing on Maria's screen, at the images of my grandmother, young and determined, standing in front of her newly purchased home, at the interviews with neighbours who remembered her kindness, at the documentation of her struggles and sacrifices. "Ready to head to the church?" Maria asked. I touched Grandma Elena's cardigan, which I'd tucked into my purse. I put it on right before the broadcast, a silent tribute to the woman who taught me about standing up for what matters. "Ready," I said. Let's go show them what real family values look like. The next 2 hours would change everything, and for once I couldn't wait for my family to watch the news. The wedding reception was in full swing when I slipped Grandma Elena's cardigan over my bridesmaid dress. Across the grand ballroom, my mother was chatting with Mrs. Harris, both of them laughing that artificial society laugh. Chiara and Wyatt were making their rounds, accepting congratulations and showing off her obscenely expensive ring. 2 minutes, Emmett whispered, appearing at my elbow. Maria's team is ready. I nodded, watching the giant screens that had been set up to display wedding photos. In moments, they would show something very different. Ladies and gentlemen, the wedding planner announced, please take your seats for the speeches and special presentations. My mother caught my eye from across the room and frowned at the cardigan. I saw her excuse herself from Mrs. Harris and start making her way toward me. She never made it. The screens flickered, and suddenly my grandmother's face filled every display in the ballroom. The room fell silent. Good afternoon, Maria's voice came through the speakers. I'm Maria Rivera with Channel 7 News, bringing you a special report on family legacy, sacrifice, and the true cost of the American dream. Genesis, my mother hissed, reaching me at last. What is this? This is Elena Rodriguez, Maria's voice continued as more photos of my grandmother appeared. A nurse who worked 3 jobs to provide for her family. This is her story. The ballroom erupted in whispers as the segment continued. Old neighbours appeared on screen, sharing stories about my grandmother. Hospital colleagues spoke about her dedication. Property records and pay stubs flashed across the screen, showing exactly what it took for an immigrant nurse to secure a future for her family. Turn it off! Chiara shrieked, her white dress rustling as she rushed toward the wedding planner. We can't, the planner said, looking panicked. It's broadcasting live. Then came the part about the present day, about how that same house, bought with decades of sacrifice, was now being demanded as payment for a society wedding. The camera cut to Maria standing in front of my grandmother's house. But one person stood up to protect this legacy. Genesis O'Connor, Elena's eldest granddaughter, refused to sell this symbol of immigrant success and family determination. The cameras switched to my pre-recorded interview. I watched myself on screen, sitting in Grandma Elena's kitchen, wearing her cardigan. This house represents everything my grandmother believed in, my recorded self said. Hard work, sacrifice, family, real family, not the kind you can buy with imported flowers and ice sculptures. Genesis, my mother's voice was dangerous now. What have you done? But I couldn't answer because Wyatt's mother, Mrs. Harris, was suddenly standing in front of me. Is this true? She demanded. Your grandmother worked 3 jobs to buy that house. Yes, I said firmly, night shifts at the hospital, weekends at the diner, sewing alterations at night. Everything she did for us. And they wanted you to sell it? Mrs. Harris turned to glare at my mother. For wedding decorations? On the screens, the segment was showing footage of Grandma Elena's last days, when she was still teaching me to make empanadas in her kitchen. Her voice, weak but determined, filled the ballroom. Remember, mi amor, some things are worth more than money, some things you must protect. You've humiliated us, Chiara screamed, storming over. This is my wedding day. No, Mrs. Harris cut in, surprising everyone. She's honoured your grandmother's memory, which is more than I can say for some people. The room had divided into clusters of whispering guests. I could hear fragments. 3 jobs. Can you imagine? And they wanted to sell it. Mom? Wyatt's voice carried across the silence. What are you doing? Mrs. Harris drew herself up to her full height. I'm remembering where I came from, dear. My own mother worked as a housekeeper to put me through school. I've never told you because I was ashamed, but watching this. She gestured to the screens where photos of Grandma Elena's life were still playing. This young woman is right. Some things are worth more than money. Ciara's mascara was running again. But the peonies, the ice sculpture, were nothing compared to what your grandmother built, Mrs. Harris finished. She turned to me. Thank you for reminding us all what really matters." My mother stood frozen, her perfect mask cracking as her carefully curated society image crumbled. Ciara had collapsed into a chair, her expensive dress pooling around her. And me? I stood there in my grandmother's cardigan, feeling her strength around me like a shield. The segment ended with a final image of Grandma Elena on her porch steps, proud and strong, followed by the words, "Dedicated to those who build legacies, not luxuries." In the stunned silence that followed, I finally understood what Grandma Elena meant when she said, "Sometimes, mi amor, the truth is the greatest revenge of all." The morning sun streamed through Grandma Elena's kitchen window as I kneaded dough on the worn counter, just as she had taught me. The familiar scent of baking empanadas filled the house. The doorbell rang. I wiped my hands on my apron and opened the door to find my mother standing there, looking smaller somehow without her usual perfect makeup and designer clothes. "You're baking," she said, noting the flour on my hands. "Grandma's recipe." I left the door open and returned to the kitchen. To my surprise, she followed. "I remember this," she said softly, running her hand along the counter's edge. "She used to make them every Sunday. Until you stopped coming to visit." She sank into one of the kitchen chairs. "The segment's gone viral, you know. Local news picked it up, then national. People keep sharing it, talking about immigrant success stories and family legacy." "I know." I slid the tray into the oven. "Mrs. Harris called yesterday. She's starting a foundation to help working families buy homes in historically significant neighbourhoods." "Of course she is." My mother's laugh was bitter. "She's also withdrawn from the country club, says she needs to reassess her values." I turned to face her. "Why are you here, Mum?" She pulled something from her purse, an old creased photograph. "I found this in my desk. It's from the day we moved in here." The photo showed my mother, young and smiling, helping Grandma Elena plant flowers in the front yard. They both looked so happy, so connected. "What happened to us?" I asked. "When did appearances become more important than this?" "I don't know." Her voice cracked. "After your father left, I was so afraid of being seen as less, of you girls having less. I thought if we could just look successful enough, be accepted by the right people. We already had everything we needed. We had Grandma Elena. We had this house." "Ciara's moving back home," she said abruptly. "To her old room here, if you'll allow it. The wedding's been postponed. Wyatt? Well, his mother's influence runs deep in their social circle." "And you?" "I've been thinking about what your grandmother would say to me right now." She touched the worn kitchen table. "About how I lost my way." The timer dinged. I pulled the empanadas from the oven, their golden brown crust perfect, just like Grandma Elena used to make. "She would say," I replied, placing the hot tray on the counter, "La familia es como las raíces de un árbol." Family is like the roots of a tree. "Without strong roots, nothing else matters," my mother finished, surprising me. "She told me that the day we moved in here." The front door opened, and Emmett's voice called out, "Something smells amazing." He appeared in the kitchen doorway with Maria, both stopping short at the sight of my mother. "Perfect timing," I said, breaking the tension. "The empanadas are ready." "Just like Elena used to make," Maria said, taking a seat. "She'd be proud, Genesis, not just of the cooking." My mother stood awkwardly. "I should go." "Stay," I said, surprising myself. "Help me teach them Grandma's recipe. It's time these walls heard some new family stories." She hesitated, then slowly removed her designer jacket and reached for an apron. "The secret," she said, her voice trembling slightly, "is in how you fold the dough. Mama Elena always said you have to do it with love." As we gathered around the kitchen table, my mother, my friends and me, sharing food and memories, I felt Grandma Eleanor's presence all around us. In the worn counter where she taught me to cook. In the window where she watched for us coming home. In the love she built into every corner of this house. My phone buzzed with a text from Ciara. "Can I come home tomorrow?" I showed the message to my mother, who had flour on her cheek and tears in her eyes. "Tell her yes," I said, "but first she needs to learn Grandma's recipe." "We all do," my mother said softly. "We all need to remember." Outside, the porch steps creaked in the familiar way they always had, but now they seemed to speak not of the past, but of the future, of new memories to be made, of a legacy preserved, of a family finding its way back to what matters. Grandma Elena once told me that sometimes the greatest victory isn't in winning the fight, but in bringing people back to their roots. Looking around her kitchen now, at these people learning to become family again, I finally understood what she meant. Some things really are worth more than money, some things really are worth fighting for, and sometimes the best revenge is showing people the truth they've forgotten and giving them a chance to remember.
The heavy cream envelope trembled in my hands as I traced the gold embossed lettering. Another invitation to another Olsen family event, where I'd be expected to smile through gritted teeth while weathering subtle jabs about my quaint upbringing. My name is Paris, and 3 years into my marriage to Noel, I'm still the family's favourite punchline. "Darling, there you are," Noel's voice echoed through our penthouse as he strode in, loosening his tie. Mother called. "Did you get the invitation?" I held up the envelope, forcing a smile. "Just opened it." He kissed my cheek, oblivious to my tension. "She specifically requested you announce the charity raffle winner this year. Isn't that wonderful?" My stomach dropped. "Me? Why would Kimberly want that?" "Because you're family," he said, heading to the bar cart. "Besides, you did such a fantastic job organising that food drive last month." I almost laughed. The food drive Kimberly had dismissed as adorably provincial at the last family dinner. The same dinner where Bryant had asked if I'd learned my organisational skills working at Goodwill. "I don't know, Noel. Maybe someone else would be better suited." "Nonsense!" He handed me a glass of wine. "Mother insisted. She said, and I quote, 'Paris has such a unique perspective on charitable giving.'" I took a long sip, remembering last Christmas, when Lorelei had loudly wondered if my thrift store coat was a statement about sustainable fashion. The room had erupted in tittering laughter while I stood there, burning with shame. My phone buzzed, Hannah calling. "Sorry, I need to take this," I said, retreating to our bedroom. "Tell me, you're not actually considering it," Hannah said, before I could even say hello. "How did you know?" "Lorelei's already posting about the gala on Instagram. She mentioned you're announcing the raffle winner. Please tell me you're not walking into another one of their traps." I sank onto the bed, staring at my reflection in the floor-length mirror. "I don't have a choice. Kimberly specifically requested me. That woman hasn't specifically requested anything from you except your absence at family functions. What's her angle?" "I don't know, but..." I paused, an idea forming. "Hannah, what if this is exactly what I need?" "I don't like that tone. That's your 'I'm about to do something crazy' tone. The raffle prize is usually something ridiculous. Last year it was a private island getaway. What if..." I lowered my voice, though Noel was probably 3 drinks into his evening routine by now. "What if I arranged something they couldn't possibly mock?" Paris. Something that would force them to see me differently. Paris, no. Something that would make them eat every nasty word they've ever said about me. "You're going to get yourself into trouble," Hannah warned. "I'm already in trouble. I'm drowning in their judgment, their snide remarks, their constant reminders that I don't belong." My voice cracked. I can't keep living like this. A knock at the door made me jump. "Paris?" Noel called. "Mother's on the phone. She wants to discuss the announcement with you." "Just a second," I called back, then whispered to Hannah. "I have to go, but I need you to help me with something. Can you meet tomorrow?" "This is a bad idea," Hannah said, but I could hear her resolve weakening. "Coffee at the Grove, 10 a.m. Perfect. And Hannah, thank you." I hung up and smoothed my dress, taking a deep breath before opening the door. Noel held out his phone, smiling encouragingly. "Paris?" Kimberly's voice dripped honey-coated venom. "I trust you're pleased with the honour of announcing our grand prize winner this year." "Absolutely, Kimberly. I'm touched you thought of me." "Well, we all agreed you have such intimate knowledge of charitable causes. And since the prize is quite substantial this year, we thought it fitting to have someone announce it who truly understands the value of money." My fingers tightened around the phone. "How thoughtful. I won't let you down." "I should hope not. The gala raises millions for underprivileged children. We can't have anything go wrong." As I hung up, my reflection caught my eye again. The woman staring back wasn't the same person who'd married into this family 3 years ago. She was tired of being the joke, tired of swallowing her pride. I picked up the invitation again, running my finger over the date. 3 weeks. 3 weeks to put my plan in motion. 3 weeks to change everything. I grabbed my laptop and opened a new browser window. Time to make some calls. "You want to donate how much?" Hannah nearly choked on her latte, drawing curious glances from nearby tables at the Grove. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. "Everything I inherited from my grandmother. Every penny. Paris, that's your safety net. Your escape fund. We've talked about this." "I know, but think about it." I pulled out my notebook, showing her the figures I'd calculated last night. "The raffle usually raises around 50,000. My inheritance is triple that." Hannah's eyes widened as she scanned the numbers. "And you want to donate it anonymously?" "Through Beau Ward's foundation. He's already agreed to help." "The philanthropist? How did you even get in touch with him?" I smiled, remembering the late-night email exchange. "Remember that literacy program I volunteered for last summer? The one Bryant said was cute, but insignificant? Beau was the primary donor. We kept in touch." "And he's willing to be your front?" "More than willing. He's been looking for a way to partner with the Olsen Foundation anyway. This kills 2 birds with 1 stone." Hannah sat back studying me. "You've really thought this through." "I have to make it perfect. When I announce the prize, I want to see their faces when they realise it's the largest donation in gala history. And they'll have no idea it came from their favourite charity case." Hannah shook her head, but I could see her fighting a smile. "It's deliciously petty. I love it." My phone buzzed. A text from Lorelei. "Speaking of petty, what does the snake want now?" I showed her the message. "Darling, do try to dress appropriately for the announcement. The photographers can be so unforgiving. Cess O." "I swear," Hannah muttered, "that woman exists purely to make others miserable. Not this time." I pulled up Beau's contact. "Want to help me make some arrangements?" We spent the next hour coordinating with Beau, setting up the anonymous donation through his foundation. As we finished, Hannah grabbed my hand. "Paris, wait. What about Noel? Are you ever going to tell him?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. I don't know. He's not like them. He loves you. He also loves his family. And he never notices when they hurt me." I blinked back tears. "Remember our wedding? When Kimberly announced she'd had my dress professionally altered because the one I chose was charming but inappropriate? Of course. You cried for hours." "And Noel just said his mother was trying to help." I wiped my eyes. "He means well, but he's blind to it all." My phone buzzed again. Kimberly this time. "Paris, dear, we need to discuss the announcement protocol. Come for tea this afternoon?" Hannah read the message over my shoulder. "Don't go alone." "I have to, but don't worry." I showed her the confirmation email from Beau. "Everything's in motion." At Kimberly's mansion that afternoon, I sat perfectly poised on her antique settee, sipping Earl Grey from bone china cups that probably cost more than my first car. "Now then," Kimberly said, setting down her cup, About the announcement. We've prepared a script for you. Nothing too complicated, dear. Just read it exactly as written. She slid an envelope across the coffee table. Inside was a single page of carefully worded text that managed to mention the Olsen family's generosity, no less than 6 times. Actually, I said, keeping my voice steady, I've been working on something special. A surprise element that I think will really elevate the moment. Kimberly's perfectly penciled eyebrows arched. A surprise? Oh, I don't think that's wise. We prefer everything to run smoothly. Trust me, it will be memorable. Memorable isn't always good, Paris. She leaned forward, her voice dropping. We've worked very hard to maintain certain standards that some might find challenging to understand. The implied insult hung in the air between us. 3 years ago, I would have shrunk under her gaze. Today, I met it head-on. I understand perfectly, Kimberly. In fact, I think you'll find my contribution exceeds all expectations. She sat back, studying me with newfound wariness. Well, we'll see, won't we? Do try not to disappoint us. As I left her house, my phone pinged with a message from Beau. Everything's set. They won't know what hit them. I smiled, thinking of Kimberly's carefully controlled world and how it was about to be shaken to its core. 3 years of subtle digs and not so subtle humiliation were about to pay unexpected dividends. Let them underestimate me one last time. Mrs. Olsen, we need verification of the prize value for the insurance paperwork. The event coordinator's voice crackled through my phone speaker, sending a jolt of panic through me. I paced my home office, grateful Noel was at work. I thought Beau was handling all of that. Mr. Ward's office directed us to you. They said you're the point person for the donation details. Right, of course. I fumbled through my desk drawer for Beau's paperwork. I'll email everything within the hour. It's just... She hesitated. The amount seems unusually high. Are you certain about the figures? Absolutely certain. I pulled up the documentation on my laptop. I'll have Mr. Ward contact you directly to confirm. After hanging up, I immediately called Beau. Already handled, he answered, anticipating my concern. My assistant is sending over the verified documentation now. Everything's legitimate, Paris. Stop worrying. But what if... Trust me, I've done this before. The money's clean, the paperwork's perfect, and the foundation's reputation is sterling. Focus on your part. A text from Brian interrupted us. Mother says you're being difficult about the announcement. Don't mess this up. I have to go, I told Beau. My brother-in-law is about to grace me with his presence. Sure enough, Bryant walked into my office 10 minutes later, not bothering to knock. What's this about you changing the script? Hello to you too, Bryant. Please, come in. I didn't look up from my computer. Cut the attitude. Mother's worried you're going to embarrass us. Heaven forbid. This isn't a joke. He perched on my desk, forcing me to acknowledge him. This gala raises serious money for serious causes. It's not some discount charity drive. I met his gaze coolly. Believe it or not, I understand the value of money quite well. Right, because you grew up without it. He smirked. Which is exactly why Mother's concerned. You don't understand how these things work in our circles. My phone buzzed. An email from Lorelei to the entire family. Darlings, heard whispers about a special surprise at the gala. Should we be concerned? What surprise? Bryant demanded. Guess you'll have to wait and see. He stood straightening his designer jacket. Don't get cute, Paris. This isn't your little world of bargain bins and clearance racks. This is our legacy. After he left, I called Hannah. They're getting nervous. Good, she said. Let them sweat. How's the speech coming along? I glanced at my notes. Almost done. Beau's reviewing it tomorrow. And Noel, still clueless? He thinks I'm just excited about the honour. I sighed. He actually said he's proud of me for embracing the family traditions. Men can be so oblivious. Hannah paused. Speaking of which, Lorelei was asking questions at the country club today. My heart skipped. What kind of questions? About your finances, your background. She's digging. She won't find anything. The donation's completely anonymous. Just be careful. That woman's like a bloodhound when she senses drama. Later that evening, during dinner with Noel, my phone lit up with a call from the gala committee. Excuse me, I said, stepping away from the table. This is Paris. Mrs. Olsen, we've reviewed the documentation, but we need to discuss the presentation logistics. This is, it's unprecedented. I understand. Can we meet tomorrow? Certainly. And should we include Mrs. Kimberly Olsen in the meeting? No, I said firmly. The donor requested strict confidentiality until the announcement. When I returned to dinner, Noel was watching me curiously. Everything okay? You seem tense lately. Just nervous about the announcement. He reached across the table, squeezing my hand. You'll be fantastic. Mother wouldn't have chosen you otherwise. If only he knew his mother had chosen me expecting me to fail spectacularly. The thought of her face when I revealed the donation almost made me laugh out loud. My phone buzzed again. Another email from Lorelei. Paris, darling, lunch tomorrow. We simply must discuss your plans for the gala. Don't do it, Hannah texted seconds later. It's a trap, I replied to Lorelei. So sorry, busy with gala preparations. Rain check. Her response was immediate. Pity. I do hope your surprise lives up to expectations. Hate to see you disappoint the family. Again. I set my phone down, smiling. Let them speculate. Let them worry. In 1 week, their perfectly ordered world of old money and older prejudices would be turned upside down. And I would be the one holding the mic when it happened. The gala ballroom sparkled like a crystal cave, all gleaming chandeliers and champagne flutes catching the light. I adjusted my midnight blue gown, purchased from a designer boutique this time. No chance for commentary about bargain hunting tonight. Paris! Lorelei's voice cut through the crowd. That dress is interesting. Trying something new. Actually, it's Valentino. I smiled sweetly. I believe you have the same one in emerald. Her face tightened. How resourceful of you. Speaking of resources, I hear the raffle prize is quite substantial this year. You'll have to wait and see. Oh, come now. She touched my arm, her red nails like talons. Surely you can give me a hint. After all, we're practically family. Lorelei, Beau's voice boomed as he approached. Wonderful to see you. Paris, may I borrow you for a moment? He steered me away, whispering, Everything's in place. The documentation's been verified, and the press release is ready to go live after your announcement. Thank you, Beau, for everything. Don't thank me yet. Kimberly's been asking questions about my foundation's recent activities. My stomach lurched. Does she suspect? No, but she's suspicious. Be ready for anything. Noel appeared with 2 champagne glasses. There's my star of the evening. Mother's looking for you. Something about reviewing the script one last time? Actually, Beau interrupted smoothly, Paris and I need to discuss some last-minute logistics. Would you mind if I borrowed her for a few more minutes? As Noel walked away, I caught Kimberly watching us from across the room. Her eyes narrowed. Bryant stood beside her, typing furiously on his phone. Paris! Hannah arrived, stunning in red. You look amazing. How are you holding up? Like I'm about to jump out of a plane without checking my parachute. Well, your parachute just arrived. She nodded toward the entrance, where a team of photographers was setting up. I may have tipped off some media contacts about a major announcement tonight. Hannah? What? If you're going to drop a bomb, might as well make sure everyone sees the explosion. The orchestra started playing, signalling guests to take their seats. Kimberly materialized beside me, gripping my elbow. A word, dear? She pulled me aside. I've just had a very interesting conversation with the event coordinator about some unusual arrangements. Is something wrong? You tell me. Her eyes bored into mine. What exactly are you planning? Nothing that won't benefit the Foundation enormously. This isn't a game, Paris. Our reputation will be enhanced significantly, I cut in. Trust me. Trust you. She laughed softly. My dear, the last time we trusted your judgment, you tried to serve boxed wine at Thanksgiving. Before I could respond, the event coordinator appeared. Mrs. Olsen, we're ready for you backstage. In the wings, I watched Kimberly take the stage, delivering her usual speech about family legacy and charitable giving. Bryant stood in the front row, still glued to his phone. Lorelei whispered to her table mates, shooting glances in my direction. You've got this, Hannah squeezed my hand. Show them who you really are. Noel caught my eye from his table, giving me a thumbs up. My sweet, oblivious husband, about to witness his wife's carefully planned revenge against his entire family. And now, Kimberly's voice rang out, I'm pleased to introduce my daughter-in-law, Paris, who will announce our grand prize winner. The applause was polite, expectant. I took a deep breath and stepped into the spotlight. Before we reveal the winner, I began, my voice steady, I'd like to share something special about this year's prize. Kimberly stiffened visibly in her front row seat. Bryant finally looked up from his phone. As you know, the Olsen Foundation has always prioritized making a significant impact. I met Kimberly's gaze. Tonight, we're taking that impact to an unprecedented level. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Lorelei leaned forward, her expression hungry for scandal. Through a remarkable partnership with the Ward Foundation, I continued, nodding to Beau, this year's prize represents the largest single donation in gala history. The whispers grew louder. Kimberly's face had gone pale. Bryant was frantically typing again, probably trying to verify my claims. But before I announced the amount, I smiled, feeling the weight of 3 years of condescension lifting from my shoulders. I'd like to thank everyone who made this possible, especially those who taught me the true value of money. I locked eyes with Kimberly, whose perfectly composed facade was beginning to crack. Now, shall we reveal just how valuable this lesson has become? The spotlight felt warm on my skin as I held up the golden envelope. Camera flashes sparkled across the ballroom like stars. This year's grand prize, I announced, my voice carrying clearly through the sound system, is a charitable endowment of $150,000. The room erupted in gasps and whispers. In the front row, Kimberly's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. But that's not all, I continued, savouring each word. This endowment comes with a matching donation to the Olsen Foundation, specifically earmarked for educational programs in underprivileged communities. Bryant stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. Lorelei's mouth hung open in a decidedly unelegant way. That's $300,000 total, someone in the audience calculated aloud. The largest single donation in our gala's history, I confirmed, smiling directly at Kimberly. Quite a valuable contribution, wouldn't you say? The room burst into applause. Photographers' cameras clicked rapidly. I could see reporters scribbling furiously in their notepads. And now, I opened the envelope, the winner of this historic prize is... Wait! Bryant strode toward the stage. Mother, this isn't authorized. We need to verify. Table 23, I announced clearly into the microphone. Dr. Sarah Martinez. A woman in a simple black dress stood up, looking shocked. I recognized her as the pediatrician who ran the free clinic downtown, the one Lorelei had once dismissed as quaint. Dr. Martinez, I continued, would you please join me on stage? As she made her way up, Bryant reached the podium, trying to speak quietly. Paris, you can't do this. The foundation hasn't approved. Actually, Bo stood up, his authoritative voice carrying across the room. Everything has been fully verified and approved through my foundation. The paperwork is ironclad. Kimberly finally found her voice. But where did the money? The donor wishes to remain anonymous? Bo cut in smoothly. Their only requirement was that the funds be announced tonight, by Paris. Dr. Martinez reached the stage, tears in her eyes. I don't know what to say. This will help so many children. Perhaps you'd like to share your plans for the endowment, I suggested, stepping aside to give her the microphone. As she spoke passionately about expanding the clinic services, I watched the Olsen family's reactions. Noel looked confused, but proud. Bryant was frantically making calls in the corner. Lorelei had pulled out her phone, no doubt trying to dig up information about the mysterious donor, but it was Kimberly's face I couldn't look away from. The carefully maintained mask of social superiority was cracking, revealing something that looked almost like respect. A truly remarkable gift, Dr. Martinez concluded, one that will change countless lives. More applause thundered through the ballroom. I could see the society photographers positioning themselves for better angles, knowing this would be tomorrow's headline. Paris. Kimberly had made her way to the stage, her voice low. Who is behind this? Someone who understands the true value of charity, I replied. Isn't that what matters? You know something. Her eyes narrowed. This has your fingerprints all over it. Does it? I thought I was just the girl from the wrong side of the tracks who didn't understand your world. Before she could respond, reporters swarmed the stage, shouting questions. Mrs. Olsen, how does it feel to oversee the largest donation in gala history? Can you tell us about the anonymous donor? Was this surprise announcement planned? I answered each question with practiced ease, watching Kimberly's expression grow increasingly strained. Behind her, Bryant was showing something on his phone to Lorelei, both of them glancing at me suspiciously. Hannah appeared at my elbow. You did it, she whispered, and they can't say a word against it without looking like complete snobs. Paris! Noel bounded up, beaming. This is incredible. Why didn't you tell me? It was meant to be a surprise, I said, catching Kimberly's eye. Sometimes the best gifts come from unexpected places. The evening continued with speeches and celebrations, but the dynamic had shifted. People who had previously looked through me now sought me out. Those who had echoed Lorelei's snide remarks were suddenly effusive with praise. As photographers gathered everyone for a group photo, Kimberly gripped my arm. I don't know how you managed this, she hissed, maintaining her camera-ready smile, but don't think it changes anything. I turned to her, matching her smile watt for watt. Oh, but it already has, Kimberly. It already has. The cameras flashed, capturing the moment forever. The society queen and her charity case daughter-in-law standing side by side, their smiles hiding a power shift that would ripple through their world for years to come. The morning after the gala, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Local news outlets had picked up the story, and social media was ablaze with speculation about the mysterious donor. Have you seen this? Hannah texted, sending a link to a society column headline. Record-breaking donation transforms annual charity gala. Society's new power player emerges. Before I could respond, Lorelei's number flashed across my screen. Paris, darling, her voice dripped honey. I simply must know. How long have you been working with Bo? We had no idea you moved in such elevated circles. Bo's foundation speaks for itself, I replied carefully. The results are what matter. Of course, though it's fascinating. The timing, the amount, almost as if someone wanted to make a statement. My other line beeped. Bryant calling. "I have to go, Lorelei." "Paris!" Bryant barked before I could say hello. "Mother wants a family meeting. Now. I'm actually quite busy. This isn't a request. We're at the house." At Kimberly's mansion, the tension was thick enough to cut. Bryant paced the living room, while Kimberly sat regally in her armchair. Noel stood by the window, looking confused. "Explain yourself," Kimberly demanded as I entered. "About what?" "Don't play coy." Bryant thrust his phone at me. "I've been doing some digging. Bo's Foundation received a massive anonymous donation exactly 3 days before the gala." "How interesting." I sat down, smoothing my skirt. "Though I'm not sure why you're investigating legitimate charitable donations." "Because," Lorelei swept in, fashionably late as usual, "the timing is suspicious. And darling, you've never shown such financial capability before." Noel finally spoke up. "What exactly are you all suggesting?" "Think about it," Bryant snapped. "Suddenly, our bargain-hunting sister-in-law orchestrates the largest donation in gala history. It doesn't add up. Unless," Lorelei smiled like a cat with cream, "she had help. Or perhaps resources we didn't know about." My phone buzzed. A text from Bo. "They're asking questions. Stay calm. Everything's legal and documented. I find it sad," I said, standing up, "that you're more concerned with where the money came from than the good it will do." "Don't deflect," Kimberly cut in. "If you're behind this..." "If I'm behind this, what?" I challenged. "Would it be so terrible if someone you considered beneath you actually had something valuable to contribute?" "Paris," Noel stepped closer. "What's going on?" "Ask your family," I replied. "Ask them about every snide comment, every backhanded compliment, every time they made me feel worthless because I didn't come from money." The room fell silent. Noel looked stricken. "They never," he started. "They always," I corrected. "You just never noticed." "This is absurd," Bryant declared. "Mother, we need to issue a statement. Distance ourselves." "From what?" Bo's voice boomed from the doorway. None of us had heard him arrive. "From a completely legitimate donation that's already making headlines? That would be unwise." Kimberly stood. "Mr. Ward, this is a private family matter." "Is it?" "Because my foundation's reputation is now tied to this donation. Any attempt to discredit it would reflect poorly on everyone involved." Lorelei's eyes narrowed. "You know something. I know that Paris has proven herself more than capable of handling this announcement. I know the donor's paperwork is impeccable, and I know," he fixed each person with a stern look, "that questioning the integrity of such a generous gift would be social suicide." My phone buzzed again. Hannah sending a screenshot of social media praise for the Olsen Foundation's progressive new direction and inspiring leadership. "Face it," I said quietly. "You need this donation more than you need to prove me wrong." Kimberly sank back into her chair, defeated. Bryant stormed out, slamming the door. Lorelei lingered, clearly torn between staying for more drama and maintaining her dignity. "Paris," Noel touched my arm. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Would you have believed me?" The hurt in his eyes answered for him. "Well," Bo clapped his hands, "I believe we're done here. Paris, shall we discuss the press conference for tomorrow? The media is very interested in hearing more about this partnership." As we left, I heard Lorelei say to Kimberly, "Darling, we need to rethink our strategy. She's not going away." "No," I muttered under my breath, "I'm not." But as Bo's car pulled away from the mansion, I couldn't shake the feeling that this victory might come with unexpected costs. The look in Kimberly's eyes hadn't been just defeat. It had been calculation. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. "Found it!" Lorelei's triumphant voice rang through the country club dining room. She slapped a folder onto the table where I sat with Hannah, scattering our lunch plates. "Your grandmother's will. Public record, darling." My heart stopped, but I kept my face neutral. "Interesting lunch reading." "Oh, it is." She pulled out a document. "Especially the part about her leaving you a significant inheritance. Almost exactly the amount of our mysterious donation." Hannah gripped my hand under the table as other diners turned to watch. "You went looking through my family's records?" I kept my voice steady. "Had to. Something wasn't adding up." Lorelei's smile turned predatory. "Wait until Kimberly sees this." "See what?" Bo appeared behind her, making her jump. "More baseless investigations into a legitimate charitable donation." "Baseless?" She waved the paper. "This proves that Paris had an inheritance." Bo raised an eyebrow. "Many people do. It proves nothing about our foundation's anonymous donor." "Please," Lorelei scoffed, "the timing is irrelevant without evidence." Bo sat down uninvited. "However, discussing confidential donation information publicly could be considered harassment. Wouldn't you agree, Hannah?" Hannah smiled sweetly. "As a lawyer, I certainly would." Lorelei's face flushed. "You're bluffing." "Try me." I met her gaze. "Go ahead, show Kimberly. Let's see how it plays in the press. The Olsons harassing their own family member over a charitable donation that's making them look good. You think you're so clever." She leaned in close. "But you've made enemies you can't handle." "Actually," a new voice joined in, "she's handled you all brilliantly." We all turned to see Noel standing there, his face uncharacteristically stern. "How long have you been there?" Lorelei stammered. "Long enough." He took the folder from her hands. "Long enough to finally see what's been happening right in front of me." "Noel," I started, but he held up a hand. "Don't. We'll talk later." He turned to Lorelei. "Leave my wife alone. That's not a request." After Lorelei stormed out, Noel sat down heavily. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Would you have supported me going against your family?" "I would have supported you being honest with me." He ran a hand through his hair. "Do you know what it's like hearing from others how my family has been treating my wife? Having Bryant show me evidence of your supposed deception?" "I'm sorry," I whispered. "Are you? Because it seems like you've been planning this for a while." "Not the whole time," Hannah interjected. "Just since—" "Hannah," Bo warned quietly. "No, let her speak." Noel looked between us. "I want to hear everything." So I told him about the constant subtle jabs, the social humiliation, the way his family had systematically tried to make me feel small, about how he'd missed or dismissed every incident. "The Christmas coat comment?" He frowned. "I thought that was just Lorelei being Lorelei." "It's never just one comment," I explained. "It's death by 1,000 cuts." "And the donation?" His voice was quiet. "Was it really you?" I glanced at Bo, who nodded slightly. "Yes." I took a deep breath. "Every penny of my inheritance." Noel sat back, processing. "Why?" "Because I needed them to see me, really see me, not as the charity case they could mock, but as someone who understood the value of money better than they ever will." "By deceiving them?" "By beating them at their own game," Hannah corrected. "They've been playing games with Paris for years." My phone buzzed. A text from Bryant. "Mother knows. Family meeting in an hour." "I have to go." I stood up. "Your mother's waiting." "We'll go together," Noel said firmly. "No more secrets, no more games, from anyone." At Kimberly's house, the atmosphere was arctic. Bryant stood smugly by the fireplace. Lorelei perched on the sofa, looking vindicated. But Kimberly's expression surprised me. She was smiling. "Well played," she said as we entered. "I underestimated you." "Mother," Bryant sputtered, she deceived us." "She outmaneuvered us," Kimberly corrected, "using our own prejudices against us. Rather brilliantly, I must admit." "You're not angry?" I asked cautiously. "Oh, I'm furious." Her smile didn't waver. "But I respect a worthy opponent. You forced us to accept you, while making it impossible for us to retaliate without damaging ourselves. It's exactly what I would have done." The room fell silent as we all absorbed this unexpected turn. "So what happens now?" Noel asked. Kimberly stood, straightening her perfectly tailored jacket. Now we adapt. After all," she fixed me with a knowing look, "family is family, isn't it, Paris?" But something in her tone made me wonder if this apparent acceptance wasn't just another move in a game that was far from over. The autumn breeze carried the scent of coffee from the grove as Hannah and I sat at our usual table, watching leaves dance across the patio. "So they just accepted it?" Hannah asked, stirring her latte. "Just like that?" "Not exactly." I showed her the invitation I'd received that morning, another Olsen family event. Kimberly's adapted her strategy. Now she introduces me as our Paris, who orchestrated that brilliant charitable partnership. Using your victory to enhance the family image. Clever. She's nothing if not adaptable. I sipped my coffee. But something's changed. The snide comments have stopped. Even Lorelei's been civil. "Fear will do that," Hannah smirked. "You proved you can play their game better than they can." My phone buzzed. A text from Noel. "Mother wants to discuss your ideas for the holiday fundraiser. Actually wants, not pretending. I checked." "Speaking of games," I said, "Noel and I had a long talk last night." "Finally, how'd it go?" He asked why I didn't trust him enough to tell him the truth. I traced the rim of my cup. I asked why he never trusted me enough to believe what was happening. Ouch! What did he say? That he'd been blind because it was easier than confronting his family. But now, I smiled slightly, now he sees everything. A familiar voice cut through the morning air. "Paris! Hannah!" Bryant approached our table, looking unusually uncertain. "Mind if I join you?" Hannah started to object, but I gestured to an empty chair. This should be interesting. "I owe you an apology," he said, sitting down. I've been awful." "Yes, you have," I agreed. "The thing is," he shifted uncomfortably, "watching you handle that donation situation, seeing how you turned our prejudice into power, it made me realize how wrong we've been. About everything." "Why are you really here, Bryant?" He pulled out his phone, showing us a news article. "The Martinez Clinic's expansion is making headlines. That donation, it's helping real people, actually changing lives." He looked at me directly. "You saw that potential when all we saw was an opportunity to show off our wealth. It's amazing what you can see when you look past designer labels," I said pointedly. "I deserved that." He stood up. "Anyway, I just wanted you to know, I get it now, why you did what you did, and I'm glad you did it." After he left, Hannah whistled low. "Well, that was unexpected." "It's a start," I said, just as my phone buzzed again. This time it was Beau. "Paris, great news. The Martinez Clinic partnership has attracted more donors. They want to create a permanent endowment. Kimberly suggested you head the committee." I nearly dropped my phone. Kimberly suggested what? Her exact words were, "Paris understands both sides of charitable giving. She's perfect for this." After hanging up, I sat in stunned silence until Hannah waved her hand in front of my face. "Earth to Paris! This is huge!" It's suspicious, I countered. What if it's another trap? Or maybe, she said gently, you actually won. Not just the battle, but the war. My phone lit up with a final text from Kimberly herself. Dinner tonight? Just us? We need to talk. At her favourite restaurant that evening, Kimberly was already waiting, looking elegant as always. You're probably wondering why I'm doing this, she said as I sat down. The thought crossed my mind. You did something I didn't think possible. She met my eyes. You made me respect you, not despite your background, but because of it. You understand value in a way we've forgotten. Is this another game? No. She smiled, genuinely this time. This is me acknowledging that I was wrong, and that perhaps it's time for the Olsen Foundation to be led by someone who truly understands both giving and receiving. You're offering me control of the foundation? I'm offering you partnership, equal standing, because you've earned it. She raised her glass. To new beginnings? I studied her face, searching for signs of deception. Finding none, I raised my glass in return. To new beginnings, I agreed, and old lessons learned. Later that night, curled up with Noel in our penthouse, I watched the city lights twinkle. Happy? He asked, kissing my temple. Content, I corrected. I didn't want revenge, not really. I just wanted respect. You got both, he chuckled, and taught us all a valuable lesson about judging books by their covers. Or thrift store coats by their price tags. Especially those. He hugged me closer. You know what the best part is? You did it all without compromising who you are. I smiled, thinking of the Martinez Clinic, of lives being changed, of bridges being built between two worlds I'd always thought were separate. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. Sometimes it's simply showing people who you've been all along.
I can't believe you're still defending him after everything he's done. My mother's voice cut through the dining room like a knife, making the expensive china on the table rattle. I gripped my fork tighter, refusing to let her see how much her words stung. I'm Tegan, and this is the story of how I chose love over family expectations, and somehow ended up winning at both. Mum, Flynn's business setback wasn't his fault. The market crashed and... I started, but Claire's snort from across the table cut me off. A setback? Is that what we're calling 300,000 in debt now? My sister twirled her wineglass, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the crystal. God, Tegan, you used to be the smart one. I pushed my untouched roast beef around the plate, wondering for the 100th time why I'd agreed to another Friday night family dinner. The chandelier light caught my wedding ring, and I remembered exactly why. Because Flynn had insisted I shouldn't lose my family over his problems. I made my choice, I said firmly. I'm using my inheritance to clear Flynn's debt, and we're starting fresh. Dad cleared his throat. Honey, that money was meant for your future, your mother and I. This is my future, Dad. Flynn and I have a plan. Oh, like his last brilliant plan. Mum's laugh was bitter. The one that left him bankrupt? The worst part was I could see Aunt Annalise, usually my strongest ally, biting her lip uncertainly. Even she thought I was making a mistake. Flynn's meeting with investors next week, I said, straightening my spine. He's got a new concept that... Of course he does, Claire rolled her eyes. There's always another get-rich-quick scheme with Flynn, isn't there? I stood up abruptly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. I need some air. Nobody tried to stop me as I headed for the back porch. The summer evening was warm, but I shivered anyway. Through the kitchen window, I could hear their voices, probably not realizing how well sound carried out here. She's throwing her life away, Claire's voice drifted out. Imagine marrying a failure and then doubling down on it. I pressed my hands against the porch railing until my knuckles turned white. They didn't know Flynn like I did. They hadn't seen him working until 3 a.m, hadn't witnessed his brilliant mind at work, hadn't felt the depth of his determination to make things right. The screen door creaked, and Aunt Annalise stepped out. They mean well, you know. Do they? I turned to face her, because it feels like they're enjoying this. She sighed, moving to stand beside me. Your mother's scared. She watched her own mother lose everything to a man with big dreams and empty pockets. Flynn isn't like that. I pulled out my phone, showing her the business plan we'd spent months perfecting. Look at these projections, the market research. This isn't some pipe dream, Annalise. She studied the screen, her expression softening. You really believe in him, don't you? With everything I have. I took my phone back, clutching it like a lifeline. And I'm not just blindly following him. I've been part of every decision, every strategy session. This is our plan, not just his. The door opened again, and Mum stepped out. Dinner's getting cold. I think I'm done for tonight, I said, gathering my purse from the porch swing. Flynn's waiting at home. Of course he is, Mum muttered, probably planning how to spend the rest of your inheritance. Something in me snapped. You know what, Mum? 10 years from now, when Flynn and I have built something amazing, I want you to remember this moment. Remember how you all sat here and judged us, wrote us off, treated us like we were crazy. Tegan, Annalise started, but I was already heading for my car. As I pulled out of the driveway, my phone buzzed with a text from Flynn. How'd it go? I could picture him in our small home office, surrounded by business plans and market research. Probably hadn't even eaten dinner yet. Despite everything, a smile tugged at my lips. About as well as expected, I typed back. But it doesn't matter. Are you still up for that meeting with Bruce tomorrow? Already prepped the presentation? We're going to knock their socks off. Looking at his message, I felt the same certainty I'd felt 6 months ago when I'd first offered to help clear his debt. My family might think I was throwing my life away, but I knew better. Sometimes the biggest risks led to the greatest rewards. I turned up the radio, drowning out the echoes of their criticism. Let them talk. Flynn and I had work to do, and I couldn't wait to prove them all wrong. 6 months earlier, I sat at our kitchen table surrounded by bills, my laptop's calculator app mocking me with its endless columns of red numbers. The inheritance money sat untouched in my account, a safety net I'd sworn never to touch. Until now. You don't have to do this, Flynn said, placing a cup of coffee beside me. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, matching the ones I'd seen in the mirror that morning. We're married. Your debt is my debt. I pulled up our joint spreadsheet, the one we'd been using to track every penny. If we're smart about this, we can clear everything and still have enough seed money for the business. Flynn dropped into the chair across from me, running his hands through his dishevelled hair. I never meant to drag you into this mess. The market crash, the investors pulling out. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I know. I reached across the table, squeezing his hand. But it did, and now we deal with it. Together. The next few weeks became a blur of extreme budgeting and extra shifts at my consulting job. I picked up weekend work. Flynn sold his beloved vintage car collection, and we moved to a smaller apartment. Every dollar saved went straight to debt repayment. You're insane, Bruce said one evening, watching me clip coupons at our new, much smaller dining table. Both of you, working yourselves to death over debt you could have walked away from through bankruptcy. Flynn looked up from his laptop. That's not who we are. Besides, I added, bankruptcy would have killed any chance of getting investors for the new business. Bruce leaned forward, his expression shifting from sceptical to intrigued. About that, I might have something for you. Flynn's fingers stopped typing. What kind of something? Remember that sustainable packaging concept you wouldn't shut up about last year? Bruce pulled out his phone, scrolling through emails. Well, I showed those preliminary designs to some people, important people. My heart started racing as Bruce continued. There's this company looking to revamp their entire packaging line. Going green, sustainable, the whole 9 yards. They need someone with fresh ideas. When can we meet them? Flynn was already reaching for his notebook. Tomorrow, 9 a.m. Bruce grinned. Better dust off that presentation you've been tinkering with. I stayed up with Flynn until 3 a.m, refining his pitch, tweaking graphics, running through potential questions. When he finally crashed on the couch, surrounded by notes and sketches, I covered him with a blanket and kept working. At 7 a.m, my phone rang. The screen showed my mother's number, but I sent it to voicemail. 10 minutes later, a text arrived. Your sister said you're working weekends now. Is Flynn making you pay for his mistakes? I deleted the message without responding. They didn't understand that this wasn't about paying for mistakes. It was about investing in our future. The next evening, Flynn burst through the door, his tie askew and his eyes wild with excitement. They loved it! Bruce, tell her! Bruce followed him in, looking equally elated. They didn't just love it, they want to fast-track development. Full funding, dedicated team, the works. I dropped the stack of bills I'd been sorting. Are you serious? Dead serious. Flynn swept me into a hug, spinning me around our tiny living room. Baby, this is it. This is our chance. The moment was interrupted by my phone ringing again. This time it was an old family friend, Margaret. Tegan, I hate to bother you so late, but... Her voice cracked. I need help. The investment group your parents recommended. Something's wrong. All our money, it's gone. My celebration high crashed as Margaret continued. Your sister said you might know about financial recovery, given what happened with Flynn. Please, I don't know who else to call. I caught Flynn's eye, and he nodded, already understanding. Come over, Margaret. We'll figure something out. After I hung up, Bruce raised an eyebrow. Family friend? Yeah. I sank onto the couch. Sounds like she got caught up in that investment group Claire's been pushing on everyone. Flynn sat beside me, his earlier excitement tempered, but not dimmed. Hey, at least we know something about climbing out of financial holes, right? I leaned against him, thinking about Margaret's desperate voice, about my family's constant criticism, about the long hours and sacrifices of the past 6 months. You know what? Maybe everything that happened to us wasn't just bad luck. Maybe it was preparation. Bruce raised his coffee mug in a toast. To preparation, then, and to proving everybody wrong. Flynn clinked his mug against Bruce's, then mine. To proving everybody wrong. Looking at these 2 men who believed in our vision, I felt stronger than ever. Margaret would be here soon, and for the first time I had real hope to offer. Not just empty comfort, but actual, practical solutions. Sometimes the worst moments in life really did lead to the best opportunities. I can't believe you're actually helping Margaret after everything her family said about Flynn. Claire's voice dripped with disdain as she cornered me at Aunt Annalise's monthly Sunday brunch. It's like you enjoy being everyone's financial saviour. I carefully set down my mimosa. Someone had to help her. That investment scheme your husband recommended wiped out her retirement fund. Claire's face flushed red. Don't you dare blame Richard for this. He was just passing along an opportunity that's left half our family friends bankrupt. I grabbed a croissant from the buffet table, needing something to do with my hands. You know what? Never mind. I'm not having this conversation again. Girls? Aunt Annalise appeared between us, her smile tight. Everything okay here? Just perfect, Claire said, but her eyes told a different story. She turned to Annalise. Did you know Tegan's been giving Margaret financial advice? Apparently, her experience with Flynn's failure makes her an expert now. Annalise's eyebrows shot up. Actually, I heard Margaret's doing much better. She mentioned Tegan helped her restructure her debt and find part-time consulting work. That's right, I said, straightening my shoulders. Flynn and I connected her with some contacts from our new project. New project? Mum appeared, joining our little circle. Please tell me you haven't invested more money in one of Flynn's schemes. It's not a scheme, Mum. We've secured major funding and— Ladies! Annalise clapped her hands. Who wants to see my new garden? But Mum wasn't letting go. Tegan, honey, I'm worried. First the inheritance, now this. When will you learn? Maybe when you learn to actually listen, I snapped. Flynn and I are building something amazing, but you're all so caught up in your prejudices you can't even see it. I see plenty, Claire muttered. I see my big sister throwing away everything she's worked for. My phone buzzed, a text from Flynn. Big news, call me ASAP. Excuse me, I said, already heading for the patio. I need to take this. Behind me, I heard Claire say to Annalise, You need to talk some sense into her. She's going to end up just like Margaret. I closed the French doors behind me and called Flynn. Baby, you're not going to believe this, he answered on the first ring. The prototype passed all initial testing. They want to fast-track production. My hands shook as I gripped the phone. Are you serious? Already? Bruce is drawing up the contracts now. We're looking at full-scale manufacturing within 6 months. Through the glass doors, I could see my family huddled together, probably discussing my poor life choices. If they only knew. That's not all, Flynn continued. Remember that sustainability conference you mentioned? They want us to be keynote speakers. Us, Tegan, they want our story. I laughed, the sound carrying through the garden. From bankruptcy to keynote in less than a year. Who would have thought? We did. His voice softened. We always knew. After hanging up, I checked my email and found something unexpected. A message from a major business magazine wanting to feature our company's rapid rise and innovative approach to sustainable packaging. The French doors opened and Annalise stepped out. Everything okay? You look different. Everything's perfect. I showed her the email. Still think I made a mistake standing by Flynn? She read it twice, her eyes widening. Tegan, this is— Wow. Does your mother know? What do you think? Annalise glanced back through the doors. Maybe it's time to tell them, really tell them. Not yet. I tucked my phone away. Let them stew a little longer. They were so quick to judge us, so certain we'd fail. Let them keep thinking that for now. That's a bit petty, don't you think? Maybe, I smiled. But after months of their criticism and Claire's snide comments, I think I've earned a little pettiness. Annalise laughed softly. You know they're in there right now, planning some kind of intervention. Claire's convinced you're heading for disaster. Let them plan. I straightened my jacket. While they're busy worrying about my choices, Flynn and I are building an empire. An empire built on spite? Annalise raised an eyebrow. No, I said, watching a group of butterflies dance through Annalise's prized roses. An empire built on belief. In ourselves, in each other, in our vision. The spite is just a bonus. My phone buzzed again. Another email, this time from Margaret. She'd landed a full-time position using the skills we'd helped her develop. Coming back inside? Annalise asked. I nodded, squaring my shoulders. Time to face the firing squad. And what will you tell them? Nothing yet. I smiled, thinking of Flynn's news, the magazine feature, the conference. Sometimes the best revenge is letting people underestimate you while you quietly prove them wrong. We walked back inside, where my family waited with their concerns and judgments. Little did they know, their worst fears about my future were already becoming my greatest triumphs. We need more space, Bruce announced, surveying our crowded office, where boxes of prototype packaging samples competed with stacks of contracts and employee applications. This isn't cutting it anymore. Flynn looked up from his laptop, grinning. Already on it. Remember that empty warehouse space on Madison Avenue? The one with the exposed brick and huge windows, I asked, shuffling through resumes. Wasn't that way out of our budget? 3 months ago, yes. Flynn spun his screen around, showing us the lease agreement. Now, we can afford the entire top floor. Bruce whistled. Look at us, moving up in the world. Speaking of moving up, I said, pulling out a particular resume, I think I found our new head of operations. The one from the multinational? Bruce peered over my shoulder. Better, Margaret. Flynn's eyebrows shot up. Your family friend, Margaret. She's got 20 years of operations experience, knows our story inside and out, and she's already proved she can rebuild from nothing. I handed them her resume. Plus, she's been crushing it at that consulting position we connected her with. I like it, Bruce said, scanning her qualifications. When can she start? A knock at the door interrupted us. Our newest intern, Sarah, poked her head in. Mr. Flynn, the investors are here early. Flynn jumped up, straightening his tie. Show them to the conference room. We'll be right there. As we gathered our presentation materials, I couldn't help but marvel at how different things felt from just a few months ago. Our small team had grown to 15 people, with more joining every week. The prototype had evolved into a full product line, and major retailers were already placing orders. The meeting went better than we could have hoped. By the end, we'd secured another round of funding and 3 new contracts. As the investors left, one turned back to shake my hand. Mrs. Summers, your team's growth trajectory is remarkable. You should be very proud. I caught Flynn's eye across the room, sharing a private smile. If only my family could see this moment. Later that afternoon, I decided to surprise Claire with a visit. She'd been oddly quiet lately, not even showing up to the last family dinner. When I pulled up to her house, I noticed the for sale sign in the yard. Claire opened the door, her usual perfect appearance slightly dishevelled. Tegan, what are you doing here? Thought I'd check in. You've been missing family events. She hesitated before letting me in. The house was half-packed, boxes everywhere. Richard and I are downsizing. Downsizing? I took in the designer furniture tagged for sale. Or selling everything? Don't. Her voice cracked. Just don't. Claire, what happened? She sank onto a box marked kitchen. The investment group. It wasn't just Margaret who lost everything. We put everything we had into it. Richard's business, our savings, even took out a second mortgage. My stomach dropped. Does Mum know? No one knows. Well, except you now. She laughed bitterly. Ironic, isn't it? I spent months judging you for standing by Flynn, and now look at me. I sat beside her on the box. Why didn't you come to me? Are you kidding? After everything I said about you and Flynn? She wiped her eyes. I couldn't face you. Claire, I saw your company in the business journal, she interrupted. The feature about innovative startups changing the packaging industry. You really did it, didn't you? You and Flynn actually made it work. We did. I pulled out my phone, opening my photos. Actually, we just leased new office space today. Want to see? She nodded, and I showed her pictures of the warehouse, our growing team, the product line. With each swipe, her eyes grew wider. Tegan, this is incredible. It is. I put my phone away. And you know what? We're hiring. Claire's head snapped up. What? We need someone to manage our client relations department. Someone detail-oriented, good with people, experienced in high-pressure situations. You can't be serious. Why not? You've got the skills, and despite everything, you're still my sister. She stared at me for a long moment. Why would you help me after how I treated you? Because sometimes people deserve a second chance. I stood up, brushing off my skirt. Think about it. The position starts next month, and it comes with a relocation allowance. As I headed for the door, Claire called out, Tegan, I'm sorry for everything. I know, I turned back. Email me your resume by Friday if you're interested. Driving home, I called Flynn. Remember how you said we needed someone to handle client relations? Yeah, I think I found the perfect candidate. I smiled, thinking of Claire's face when she saw our success. Though fair warning, family dinners might get a lot more interesting. Your father and I need to talk to you. Mum's voice on the phone sounded different, smaller somehow. Can you come over tonight? I glanced at my calendar, already packed with meetings. Mum, I've got a busy day. Can it wait until... Please, Tegan. The tremor in her voice made me pause. It's important. 2 hours later, I pulled into my parents' driveway. The house looked the same as always, pristine lawn, perfect flower beds, but something felt off. Dad's golf clubs were missing from their usual spot by the garage. Mum opened the door before I could knock. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her usually immaculate makeup smudged. Where's Dad? I asked, following her into the living room. Here. His voice came from his favourite armchair, but he didn't stand up. He looked older somehow, defeated. A stack of papers sat on the coffee table in front of him. What's going on? Mum perched on the edge of the sofa. We've made some mistakes. Dad picked up the papers, his hands shaking slightly. Remember that investment group Claire and Richard were involved with? My stomach clenched. Please tell me you didn't. We thought we were being smart, Mum said, her voice breaking. The returns seemed guaranteed. We put in everything, our retirement, the house equity, the country club membership, Dad added quietly. My partner shares in the law firm. I sank into a chair. How much? All of it. Mum started crying. We're going to lose the house, Tegan. Everything we worked for, gone. The irony wasn't lost on me. Less than a year ago, they'd sat in this same room telling me I was throwing my life away by standing by Flynn. Have you talked to a lawyer? I asked. Dad laughed bitterly. I am a lawyer, and yes, we've explored every option. The money's gone. The investment group was a fraud. Claire mentioned Richard was involved in running it, I said carefully. Richard's facing criminal charges, Mum whispered. He and his partners. They knew it was a Ponzi scheme. My phone buzzed. A text from Flynn. Meeting went great. Signed 3 new major retailers, coming home with champagne. I turned my phone face down. Why didn't you come to me sooner? Pride, Dad admitted. After how we treated you and Flynn, we were ashamed. Mom reached for my hand. We were wrong about him, about you, the way you've turned things around, built this amazing company. While we lost everything, Dad finished. I stood up, walking to the window. Outside, a for sale sign was already planted in their perfectly manicured lawn, just like Claire's. You know, I said, still looking out, we just leased a beautiful new office space. The old building we're in now. It's got 3 furnished apartments upstairs. Tegan, Mum started. They're meant for visiting executives, but one of them is empty. I turned back to face them. It's not huge, but it's nice, and it's paid for. Dad shook his head. We can't accept charity. It's not charity. I pulled out my phone, opening our company website. We need experienced people. Dad, our legal department could use someone with 40 years of corporate law experience. And Mum, your event planning skills would be perfect for our corporate relations team. They stared at me, speechless. You'd hire us? Dad's voice was rough. After everything? I'm not just hiring you. I'm offering you a chance to rebuild, just like you should have offered Flynn and me. Mum started crying again. We don't deserve this. Maybe not. I sat between them on the sofa. But family is family, even when they're wrong, even when they hurt you. The apartment, Dad cleared his throat. When would it be available? Immediately, though there's one condition. They looked at me warily. You have to attend our company's financial literacy workshop, the one Claire's teaching now. Mum's eyes widened. Claire's teaching? She's actually quite good at it. Turns out, experiencing financial disaster firsthand makes you excellent at helping others avoid it. Dad picked up the stack of papers, foreclosure notices, I realised, and set them aside. When can we start? Monday, I stood up. I'll have HR send over the paperwork. The apartment keys will be at the front desk. As I headed for the door, Mum caught my arm. Tegan, wait. She pulled me into a tight hug. Thank you, and I'm sorry for not believing in you, in Flynn. I know, I hugged her back, but maybe now you understand why I did. Driving home to Flynn and our celebration champagne, I thought about how life had come full circle. A year ago, I'd been the family failure, the cautionary tale. Now, I was their salvation. My phone buzzed with a text from Claire. Mum told me what you did. Thank you for not being as petty as I would have been. I smiled, thinking of our packed office, our growing team, our success built from the ashes of failure. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising so high that those who doubted you have no choice but to look up. This is the one, Flynn announced, leading me through the grand entrance of what could be our new home. Sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating hardwood floors and soaring ceilings. What do you think? I walked to the windows, taking in the view of the city below. It's incredible. Bruce whistled as he explored the open-concept living area. A far cry from that studio apartment you guys were in last year. That's what makes it perfect. Flynn wrapped his arms around me from behind. Remember sitting on our fold-out couch planning all this? Now look at us. The realtor cleared her throat politely. Shall we see the master suite? As we followed her upstairs, my phone buzzed. A text from Claire. Mum's crying in the break room, again. I sighed. Everything okay at the office? Your mother's still struggling with the adjustment, Bruce said, checking his own messages. But Claire's handling it well. She's really stepped up as team leader. The master bedroom was even more impressive than the living room, with a private terrace and a bathroom bigger than our first apartment. While Flynn discussed details with the realtor, I stepped onto the terrace, calling Claire. She's fine now, Claire answered immediately. Just got overwhelmed during the financial literacy training. Maybe we should pull her from the program. Actually, she asked to stay, said she needs to understand where she went wrong. Claire paused. It's not easy watching our parents learn basic budgeting from their daughters. No, I agreed, but it's necessary. Dad's doing better at least. Legal department loves him. I smiled, remembering how Dad had approached his new role with the same dedication he'd once given his law firm. How's the house hunting going? Found a nice place near the office. Nothing fancy, but it's within my new budget. She laughed softly. Never thought I'd be saying those words. My budget. Flynn appeared at my side, holding up a key. They accepted our offer. Got to go, I told Claire. Family dinner tonight. Wouldn't miss it. Margaret's bringing her famous lasagna. After hanging up, I turned to Flynn. We really doing this? Buying our dream house? We earned it. He pulled me close, though I have one more surprise first. Back at the office, Flynn led me to the conference room. Inside, a team from the leading business magazine was setting up cameras and lighting. What's this? Remember that article they wanted to do? Flynn grinned. They decided to make it a cover story, complete with photo shoot and video interview. Bruce appeared with a garment bag. Your power suit, as requested. You knew about this? Who do you think suggested the cover story angle? Bruce winked. The public loves a good redemption narrative. The next few hours were a whirlwind of photos, interviews, and carefully crafted answers about our journey from bankruptcy to success. The journalist seemed particularly interested in the family aspect. "So, you've actually hired the same family members who doubted you?" she asked. "We believe in second chances," I replied, thinking of Mum's tears, Dad's determination, Claire's transformation. Success means nothing if you can't lift others up along the way. Even those who hurt you? Especially those who hurt you? I smiled. The best revenge is success, but the best success is being able to help others succeed too. After the interview, I found Flynn in his office, drafting a speech for next week's sustainability conference. "Need help?" I asked, perching on his desk. "Always." He showed me his notes. "I'm trying to find the right way to tell our story, the real story, not just the business side." I read what he'd written so far. "A year ago, we lost everything except our belief in each other. Today, we're not just building a company, we're rebuilding families, relationships, and trust." "It's perfect," I said, "just like this day." My phone buzzed again, a message from Aunt Annalise. "Saw the camera crew, finally ready to show the world what I knew all along." "You know what's funny?" I showed Flynn the message. "A year ago, we were so focused on proving everyone wrong. Now we're more interested in proving them right, showing them they can succeed too." "Speaking of success," Bruce poked his head in, "wait until you see tomorrow's numbers. That new retail contract is going to blow your minds." Flynn saved his speech draft. "Should we tell him about the house?" "Tell me what?" "We got it," I said. "The dream house is ours." Bruce raised an imaginary glass. "To the new house?" "To second chances," Flynn added. I thought about our journey, from desperate nights counting pennies to buying our dream home, from family scorn to family healing. "To believing in each other," I said, "even when no one else did." Looking at these two men who'd been there through it all, I felt a profound sense of rightness. We weren't just building a business empire. We were creating a legacy of redemption, one second chance at a time. "Ready for this?" Flynn squeezed my hand as we stood backstage at the annual Family Business Gala. Through the curtain, I could see our entire team seated at the front tables, Claire looking professional in her new suit, Mum and Dad sitting nervously together, Margaret beaming with pride. "Born ready?" I adjusted my microphone. "Though I still can't believe they chose us for the keynote." "Believe it." Bruce appeared, tablet in hand. "Stock price is up 15% just on the announcement that you're speaking." The event coordinator signalled it was time. Flynn kissed my cheek and whispered, "Show them what we're made of." I walked onto the stage, the spotlight warm on my face. Hundreds of faces looked back at me, including several who'd turned down Flynn's business proposals just a year ago. "Most success stories," I began, "start with a moment of triumph. This one starts with a failure, a spectacular $300,000 failure." The room fell silent. 1 year ago, my husband and I lost everything: our savings, our reputation, our standing in the community. I caught Mum's eye in the audience. Even our family's respect. Dad shifted uncomfortably in his seat. But we had something more valuable than money or reputation. We had belief in each other, in our vision, and in the power of second chances. I clicked to the first slide. A photo of our old studio apartment, covered in spreadsheets and business plans. This was our war room, where we planned our comeback, one budget calculation at a time. Next slide, our first prototype. And this was our hope, a sustainable packaging solution that could revolutionize an industry. The presentation continued, showing our journey from bankruptcy to breakthrough. With each slide, I could see the audience becoming more engaged, more invested in our story. "But success isn't just about proving doubters wrong," I said, clicking to a photo of our current team. "It's about proving believers right, about creating opportunities for others to rise with you." Claire wiped a tear from her eye as I continued. Today, our company doesn't just produce innovative packaging solutions. We produce second chances. Every employee in this photo has a comeback story, including my own family. I gestured to our front tables. My sister, who lost everything in an investment scheme, now leads our client relations department and teaches financial literacy. Claire stood, receiving warm applause. My father, who had to start over after 40 years as a law firm partner, now heads our legal team. Dad stood, standing taller than I'd seen him in months. My mother, I paused as Mom dabbed her eyes, who thought I was throwing my life away by standing by my husband, now runs our corporate events with the same precision and grace she once used to judge our choices. The audience laughed warmly as Mum stood, blushing. And Margaret, our head of operations, who turned her own financial disaster into a blueprint for helping others rebuild. Margaret stood to enthusiastic applause. Flynn joined me on stage as I concluded. 1 year ago, we were the cautionary tale at family dinners. Today, we're proof that rock bottom can be the foundation for something extraordinary. Bruce appeared on my other side, bringing up our latest quarterly results on the screen. The audience gasped at the numbers. But more important than these figures, Flynn took over, is what we've built beyond the balance sheet. A culture of redemption, a family of second chances, a legacy of lifting others as we climb. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. At the reception afterward, Claire pulled me aside. That speech, you could have destroyed us all, exposed our mistakes to everyone. That wouldn't have served any purpose, I said, watching Mum charm potential clients while Dad discussed legal strategies with industry leaders. Success without grace is just revenge. When did you get so wise? She bumped my shoulder playfully. Around the same time you learned humility, I teased back. Across the room, I spotted several investors who'd rejected us last year, now eagerly chatting with Bruce. Margaret was surrounded by people interested in our financial recovery program, while Mum and Dad worked the room like they'd never lost their social standing. Flynn appeared with champagne. To my brilliant wife, who just landed us 3 new major contracts with that speech. To our amazing team, I corrected, who proved that sometimes the worst moments in life are just detours to something better. Claire raised her glass. To second chances. And family, Mom added, joining us with Dad. And revenge served with success, Bruce chimed in, making everyone laugh. Looking around at my family, both blood and chosen, I felt a profound sense of completion. We'd come full circle from shame to triumph, from rejection to redemption. But more importantly, we'd done it together, proving that the best success stories aren't about getting even, but about lifting everyone higher. As the evening wound down, Flynn whispered, "Ready to go home? To our new house?" I smiled, thinking of the journey ahead. Home is wherever we're building something together. The boxes go in the master bedroom, I directed the movers, standing on the steps of our new home. The morning sun caught the windows, making the whole house sparkle. "Still can't believe this is ours," Flynn said, coming up behind me with 2 coffee cups. "Remember when we thought we'd be stuck in that studio forever?" A familiar car pulled into the driveway, Dad's new sedan, much more modest than his old luxury vehicle. He and Mum stepped out, carrying what looked suspiciously like home-cooked breakfast. "We thought you might need sustenance for moving day," Mum called out, holding up a basket of still-warm muffins. "And muscle," Dad added, rolling up his sleeves. "Where do you want me?" Before I could answer, Claire's SUV parked behind them. She emerged with Margaret and Bruce, all carrying boxes labelled kitchen. "Family moving party?" I asked, accepting a muffin from Mum. "More like family everything now," Claire laughed. "Get used to it." We spent the morning unpacking, sharing stories, and transforming the empty house into a home. Mum took charge of organising the kitchen, while Dad and Flynn assembled furniture. Claire and Margaret tackled the office setup, arguing good-naturedly about the best desk arrangement. "Hey, look what I found," Bruce called from the living room. He held up a framed magazine cover, our cover story, now hanging in offices and homes across the country. "That goes in the study," Flynn said, "along with this." He pulled out another frame, our first business plan, coffee-stained and worn around the edges. "Keep those together," Mum suggested, "the before and after, the dream and the reality." "Speaking of reality," Claire said, "the new financial literacy program launches next week. We've got 30 people signed up already." 32, Margaret corrected. 2 more joined this morning, former executives who lost everything in bad investments. They heard about our story and wanted to learn how to rebuild. Dad paused in his furniture assembly. "You know, I used to think losing everything was the worst thing that could happen to a person. Now I realise it can be the best, if you let it teach you something." "Like humility?" Mum offered, smiling softly. "Like family," I added. The doorbell rang. Lunch delivery for the moving crew. As everyone gathered in the kitchen, I took a moment to stand on the back terrace, looking out over the city. From here, I could see our office building, its windows gleaming in the distance. Flynn joined me, wrapping an arm around my waist. "Penny, for your thoughts?" "Just thinking about how different everything is, not just the house or the company, but us, all of us." Inside, I could hear Mum laughing at one of Bruce's jokes, Claire discussing business strategy with Dad, Margaret sharing recipes with the moving crew. "Remember when they wouldn't even say my name?" Flynn mused. "Now look at your dad in there, treating me like the son he always wanted. And Mum actually asking my opinion on things instead of telling me what I'm doing wrong. Mrs. Summers?" One of the movers appeared at the terrace door. "We found this box labelled important. Where would you like it?" I opened the box to find our old budget spreadsheets, the ones we'd used to climb out of debt. "The study," I decided, "next to the magazine cover." "Keeping the reminders close?" Flynn asked. "Keeping the lessons closer." Back inside, Claire was helping Mum arrange family photos on the wall, old ones mixed with new ones, telling the story of our transformation. "This spot needs something," Mum said, pointing to an empty space. "I know exactly what goes there." I pulled out a simple frame, holding a handwritten note, the one Flynn had left me the morning after we decided to use my inheritance to clear his debt. "Thank you for believing in me. We'll prove them all wrong." "And you did," Dad said quietly. "You proved us all wonderfully, magnificently wrong." Bruce raised his coffee cup. "To proving people wrong." "To second chances," Margaret added. "To family," Mum and Dad said together. "To belief," Flynn and I finished. Looking around at these people, my family, both old and new, I realised that success wasn't just about the house or the company or the money. It was about this moment, all of us together, stronger for having been broken, wiser for having failed, closer for having fought. Claire caught my eye and smiled. "Ready to hang that last photo?" I nodded, taking the frame from her. As I placed it on the wall, completing our family story, I felt Flynn's hand slip into mine. Outside, the city stretched before us, full of possibilities. Inside, our family gathered close, full of love and second chances. This was more than a happy ending. This was a new beginning for all of us.